Chapter 1988. Is this the supermarket where you work? Yes. Zhang got out of the car and stood before the window. Can I have your number? Maybe we can eat together next time. It might not be convenient. Chen Zhao shrugged helplessly. If we meet again, I'll call you. Zhang had thought that Chen Zhao wanted to pursue her. She also felt that Chen Zhao was interesting, knowledgeable, and had some money. She should be a good stock, so she wanted to develop a relationship with Chen Zhao. But Chen Zhao didn't have that thought at all. In fact, Chen Zhao just wanted to chat with a Chinese person. That was all. Goodbye. Zhang, he suddenly jumped in front of the car. I don't really like you, but I still want to know why you rejected me. First of all, I have a family and a lot of kids. Also, I just wanted to chat with you. I haven't talked to Chinese people in a long time, so I don't plan on developing a relationship. Zhang, he was speechless at Chen Zhao's answer, but she still moved to the front of the car. I hope we'll never meet again. Okay, it's really goodbye this time. Chen Zhao saw Zhang. He gave him the middle finger from behind. But Chen Zhao still generously waved his hand outside the car window. Zhang, he felt very depressed. She was also listless when she went to work. Just then, a woman wearing sky-high heels walked behind Zhang and put her hands on her shoulders. She looked very intimate. Baby, what's wrong? Just now, I asked a man for his number, but he rejected me. Zhang, he said, depressed. Oh, he's either gay or impotent. He asked to chat with me twice. I thought he liked me, so I asked for his number. In the end, he said he just wanted to chat with someone. It's so humiliating. Did you frighten him away somewhere? Did he know your identity and think he's not good enough for you? Sis, did you watch too many TV shows? They don't act like this anymore. But there's something similar. Your father asked you to go back and inherit the family business. Are you sure he asked me to go back and inherit the family business instead of squandering the family business? Anyway, that's your family's business and has nothing to do with me. If you're willing to continue playing the role of a poor noble girl, I'll cooperate with your performance. Zhang, pursed her lips. She really did have plans to develop a relationship. At the very least, Chen Zhao was pretty good in all aspects. At the very least, he was a divination that they could get along well with. For a girl from a rich family like her, even if she grew up watching those melodramatic dramas, she would never be able to resist. When it came to choosing a lover, she would also prioritize a man with a similar background, a man with similar topics and horizons. In this world, there are stories of princesses falling in love with poor boys, but the possibility of that was even lower than winning the lottery. After all, there would be 1 or 2 winners of the lottery every episode. However, there might not even be one in the real world in a melodramatic drama about a princess falling in love with a poor boy. Putting aside the plot of a television series, there might not even be one in the real world in 10 years. Chen Zhao probably didn't even know that the girl he'd randomly picked up to earn money to support her studies was actually from a rich family. Of course, even if he knew, he wouldn't care. When Chen Zhao talked to someone, he wouldn't ask about their background first. After returning to the hotel, Ham came to find him. Mr. Chen, we've already locked onto the exact location of Sarah's lab and the entrance. We're planning to move tonight. Do you have anything you need to prepare? I don't need to prepare anything. Chen Zhao rubbed his nose. But have you gotten your weapons and equipment? It's not what I expected, but it's more or less ready. Both sides were lying through their teeth. It seemed like they'd really reconciled. Chen Zhao felt that even if he had to work with Demi next time, he definitely wouldn't work with others. It was a really uncomfortable feeling. Every word was filled with lies and hypocrisy. Mr. Chen, what weapons do you need? If we have extra, we can help you prepare them. I don't really need anything. Oh, do you have a Desert Eagle? Mr. Chen, are you used to using a Desert Eagle? Actually, most people who use guns wouldn't like a Desert Eagle. As a large-caliber handgun, the Desert Eagle had a terrifying recoil that was as powerful as its power. Even men had to hold the gun with both hands to shoot. If they used one hand, they might break their bones with one shot. The Desert Eagle had actually become popular because of games and TV shows. If the main character held the Desert Eagle with both hands and fired continuously, the main character would probably be paralyzed after a battle. After the battle, the protagonist would probably be paralyzed. That terrifying recoil would directly make the protagonist infertile. In the military of every country, no country used the Desert Eagle as a regular weapon. No, I'm just keeping it as a collection. Okay, I'll prepare a Desert Eagle for you tonight. Ham looked sincere, but he was actually very disdainful of Chun Zhao's choice. True professionals almost never used the Desert Eagle as equipment. As for what Ham was thinking, Chun Zhao didn't care at all. Then I'll have to trouble you, Ham, Chun Zhao said intimately. However, Ham wouldn't fall for it. In fact, after Chun Zhao buried Ham and his team in the desert, Ham's vigilance toward Chun Zhao was at its highest. Ham and his subordinates analyzed for 2 days, but they still couldn't figure out how Chun Zhao had done it. In such a short time, Chun Zhao had infiltrated the suite through the hotel's outer wall. After all, what had happened that night was too strange. Even if it happened again, Ham wouldn't know how to defend against it. This time, Ham wouldn't underestimate Chun Zhao like before. If he wasn't completely confident, he definitely wouldn't act rashly. After dinner, Ham and his team were all busy preparing and checking their weapons. Only Chun Zhao was still recovering in the restaurant. Ham couldn't help but rush him, but Chun Zhao still did what he wanted. Ham, don't be so impatient. Take it slow. It's still early. Early? Ham glanced at Chun Zhao. They couldn't just walk out of the door and turn right to Sarah's lab. Their schedule tonight was very tight. It would take a few hours just to get to Sarah's lab. It was already a miracle that they could get there in the second half of the night. In fact, after entering the highway, they had to face the desert in the night. After half an hour of Ham's urging, Chun Zhao was finally full. Mr. Chun, can we go now? Of course. No problem. Chapter 1989. When Chun Zhao stepped into a modified military transport vehicle, the atmosphere in the vehicle dropped to a freezing point. The soldiers all gripped their guns tightly and stared at Chun Zhao. It seemed like they could attack at any time. Just then, Ham spoke up. Mr. Chun, here's the Desert Eagle you wanted. Ham lowered the gun and handed it to Chun Zhao by the handle. Thank you. Chun Zhao took the Desert Eagle and wiped the gun with a handkerchief. He had to admit that the Desert Eagle was indeed very beautiful. Chun Zhao couldn't bear to put it down. The Desert Eagle was just like in the movies. It was heavy in his hands, and his entire aura changed. It could be said that it was a firearm that was deified in movies. Its huge recoil force and weight of up to 2 kilograms, as well as its low performance and reliability, made it impossible for it to be used professionally. However, it had a very good market for civilian use. The Desert Eagle had always been one of the top-selling guns on old America's gun shop shelves. Therefore, the Desert Eagle fully demonstrated the saying that appearance was the best. Of course, Chun Zhao also felt the disdain from his teammates. Mr. Chun, do you like guns? Like? Chun Zhao's few records of killing enemies with guns had all been by pointing the muzzle at the enemy's head. How could Chun Zhao like guns? He was just a fan and worshipped this legendary weapon. But after a few rounds, he got bored. His natural lack of passion for guns also came with it. It was mainly because Chun Zhao lacked the talent for firearms. Chun Zhao had shot at the enemies with firearms several times, but the kills turned into threats. The enemies thought that Chun Zhao didn't kill them on purpose. After leaving the city, the transport vehicle entered the desert. At first, the transport vehicle could still move. Apart from being a bit bumpy, there were no other flaws. But in less than 10 minutes, the vehicle stopped moving. After everyone got off, they realized that it was a crack in the terrain. The vehicle couldn't drive over, so they could only get off and walk. It took them quite some time to go around the crack. Actually, both Upper and Lower California weren't decertified. It was mainly because of the rainfall that dried up the land. The geology was mainly rock, black soil, and loess. It wasn't like the Sahara Desert, which was completely decertified. It was cold in the desert at night. Because everyone needed to fight, they couldn't wear too thick clothes. When the cold wind blew, they all shivered. Don't think that these elites who train in water and fire are not afraid of the cold. In fact, this was the most painful moment for them. This was because they would sweat a lot when they moved forward while carrying a heavy load, and sweat would take away heat at a faster rate, thus consuming even more physical strength. If it was a sub-zero temperature environment, it would not consume so much energy. This was because the low temperature caused the sweat glands in the human body to contract, and the low temperature made it even drier. Therefore, the difference in temperature was not that great. It was just like what the Chinese often said about the fighting nation, running around naked in an environment that was more than minus 10 degrees Celsius. In fact, in southern China, when the temperature was 5 or 6 degrees above zero, the humidity would increase by 10% and the temperature difference would decrease by 10 degrees. Therefore, the temperature of minus 10 degrees Celsius in the fighting nation was actually similar to the temperature of a few degrees Celsius in the south of Huaxia. Of course, this was also the time to show off their stamina. After replenishing some nutritional water, they resumed their journey. Ham had been observing Chun Zhao in secret. When everyone else rested, Chun Zhao rested too. While everyone was replenishing their stamina, he was also replenishing his stamina. But without a doubt, Chun Zhao was carrying almost zero weight. It was a completely different experience from them. All of them were heavily armed. The guns and ammunition on them added up to more than 40 kilograms. Therefore, if a battle happened, Chun Zhao would definitely have an advantage in terms of stamina. Of course, Chun Zhao had almost no equipment, so his firepower was definitely not as good as the fully armed soldiers. Ham evaluated in his heart. To be honest, they had known each other for a few days. However, he had never seen Chun Zhao fight seriously. The incident at the airport could only be considered a small conflict. It was far from fighting. But Ham knew that Chun Zhao was an expert hired by Demi at a high price. Ham did not have access to the base's budget, so he did not know how high Chun Zhao's price was. But Demi would definitely not hire a beggar to make up the numbers. Moreover, Chun Zhao had already silently tied up the entire team and buried them alive in the desert that night, proving his strength. He also believed that Chun Zhao did not carry weapons not because he was careless or arrogant. He was probably the type that was better at close-range combat. Demi had also said that Chun Zhao was an expert in this area. Ham really wanted to see what kind of expert Chun Zhao was. But there were no battles or ambushes along the way. Their biggest enemy was only stamina. They found the entrance according to the intelligence. This is the wall. Where's the entrance? They stopped before a wall in a valley. According to the intelligence, this was the entrance. But there was nothing else apart from the wall. It should be a hidden entrance. Hem studied the wall before him. Then he looked at Chun Zhao. Mr. Chun, do you have any suggestions? If the normal method of finding the entrance was very complicated, there was another way, exploding the wall. The rock wall was about 10 meters long, and they had enough explosives. They could use them to determine the location of the entrance. But this way, they would also be exposed. It would be impossible to launch a surprise attack. They would have to face the enemy's all-out counterattack. Chun Zhao glanced at the wall. The entrance is around there. Everyone looked at Chun Zhao. How do you know? Ham asked. He wasn't doubting Chun Zhao. After all, they were in the same boat. Thus, he believed that Chun Zhao wouldn't lie about this. He felt that Chun Zhao had some way or found some details that they hadn't noticed. Who has an ultraviolet detector? You can look over there. Just then, one of them switched to an ultraviolet detector. Indeed, there were traces of blood at the place Chun Zhao was pointing at. Captain, the team member nodded at Ham. Ham took the ultraviolet detector and saw the blood too. Mr. Chun, you don't seem to have any equipment. How did you see it? Of course I have my ways, Chun Zhao said. In fact, Chun Zhao's small world covered the entrance, so he could see it. Ham made a few tactical gestures. An engineer soldier lurked at the entrance and began to set up the directional explosives. A series of actions was done in one go. The entire process took less than 45 seconds. After the installation was complete, there was a deep sound. The rocks on the wall started peeling off, revealing the metal door inside. Chapter 1990. After that, the engineer soldier took out a high-temperature cutter and cut a hole with a diameter of 50 centimeters on the metal door. Okay, you can come over now. The soldier gestured at Ham and the others. Everyone carefully groped their way through the metal door. Inside was a long and narrow passage. There were many circular holes on the walls on both sides of the passage. It looked like the drainage holes of a sewer. There were at least 100 circular holes on both sides of the passage. Ham gave another tactical command, and there were people on guard everywhere. Ham glanced at Chun Zhao in the end. Chun Zhao kept his hands in his pockets, looking like he was taking a leisurely stroll. Mr. Chun, we're already inside the enemy's building. Shouldn't you be on guard? I have my own plans. You don't have to worry. Ham's expression didn't change, but he had already sentenced Chun Zhao to death in his mind. Suddenly, a crashing sound came from the circular tunnel. The circular tunnel was like a microphone. It could gather sound. Therefore, everyone heard it very clearly. Ham shone a searchlight into the tunnel. It seemed to be a black wave. But when he looked closer, the wave seemed to be solid. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The closer they got, the more obvious the sound became. That black wave wasn't liquid at all. It was simply countless rats. Let's go, let's go. Ham's face turned pale with fright as he quickly ordered. At the same time, he threw a grenade into the tunnel. Everyone ran forward desperately. There was a loud sound behind them, and an explosion shot out from the tunnel. There were also some roasted rats. But one grenade clearly couldn't kill all the rats. Soon, the rats in the tunnel surged out like a tide. Denzel switched to a flamethrower. You take the rear, Ham ordered. Without any hesitation, Denzel switched his weapon as he ran. In 10 seconds, he finished switching. Then he stopped and turned. Whoosh! The flamethrower was very effective against rats. It was like one man holding the pass against 10,000 enemies. Even if the rats charged through the flames, they would turn into fire rats. After a few more steps, there was no sound. Denzel fired the flamethrower and retreated. The rats weren't stupid. At least, they were much smarter than regular rats. They no longer charged blindly into the sea of fire. Instead, they circled around the flames and broke through from the walls or ceilings where the temperature was lower. It did not take long for Denzel to become too busy. Rats were trying to break out of the encirclement from the left, right, and the ceiling. The rats pounced on Denzel's body. In the beginning, there were only 1 or 2 rats. They did not even tear through Denzel's combat uniform. Yet they were filled with a wild aura. When Denzel swatted the rats off his body, more of them would jump on him. Damn bastard. Denzel had been pinching the mouse. He noticed that there was a spore on the mouse's body. But the old man didn't have time to think. His neck was bitten. Denzel was in so much pain that he almost dropped the flamethrower. By then, half of Denzel's body had been covered by the rats. The rats were biting and tearing at Denzel furiously. Denzel took 2 steps forward. However, his body felt so heavy that he could not even stand steadily. At this time, even more rats were pouncing on him. Rumble, with a loud bang, the huge impact and the leaking fuel ignited the tunnel. The rats' path forward was completely blocked. Ham's face was green. They had just started, and he had already lost a subordinate. A few rats passed through the flames and continued charging at the group. Chun Zhao picked up a rat. Although it had been caught, it was still as ferocious as before. Chun Zhao observed the rat. It was larger than a regular rat, and there was a spore in its abdomen. Chun Zhao was familiar with these spores. Is this what we're dealing with? Ham stomped on a rat, disgust written all over his face. This is just the appetizer, Chun Zhao said calmly. At the same time, he removed the spores on the rat. He picked up the spores with his fingertip. These spores will parasitize most creatures, including humans. I hope you won't be parasitized by them. They will directly invade the host's brain and turn your body into a monster. The spores wriggled on Chun Zhao's fingertip. Thin tentacles grew out of the spores, as if they wanted to drill into Chun Zhao's skin and root in. Everyone felt their scalps go numb. If you encounter a large parasitic host, if you can't completely destroy the body of the parasitic host, you can directly attack the spores. Destroying the spores is equivalent to directly killing them. Of course, some monsters have more than 1 parasitic spores on their bodies, maybe more, and the spores will hide in some hidden places. Ham stared at Chun Zhao. Mr. Chun, you look very familiar. Of course. I've encountered this before. Are there any techniques to deal with these monsters? There are no other techniques. The only thing you can rely on is powerful firepower. Chun Zhao shrugged. Also, if you encounter some dust-filled areas, don't go in. These spores can only survive in a type of dust with paralyzing toxins before they have a host. We encountered them? Mr. Chun, do you want to separate from us? Ham stared at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao glanced at Ham and then at the soldiers behind him. From the moment we entered here, at least one of you has pointed a gun at me, whether we walk or run. So I think it's better for us to split up. Otherwise, we might have to fight before the mission is completed. Am I right, Mr. Major? Ham's eyes sparkled. Chen Zhao seemed to be very experienced in dealing with the monsters here. The current situation was unclear, so Chen Zhao following the team was undoubtedly the best choice. However, they were like fire and water and knew each other very well. Ham already regretted his rash decision earlier. Now, the two sides were like fire and water. Chen Zhao's words made their relationship even clearer. There was no need to hide anymore. Just then, a soldier suddenly raised his light machine gun and pointed at Chen Zhao. If you want to leave, leave your life behind. The soldier clearly hated Chen Zhao to the max. Ham raised an eyebrow. He didn't think that his subordinate would attack without his orders. Attacking now was undoubtedly the most unwise choice. But he couldn't stop his subordinate from taking revenge. Suddenly, Chen Zhao flicked his finger. The spores on his finger shot into the soldier's mouth. Cough, cough. The soldier clutched his neck and coughed violently. The spores are very fast. He'll mutate soon. Good luck. Chen Zhao turned around and left calmly. Mike, how are you? Ham hurriedly helped Mike up. I feel terrible. There's something in my stomach. Mike tore at his clothes. Chapter 1991. Suddenly, Ham took a few steps back, and so did his teammates. Mike's face was covered in black veins, and his body gave off a strong, rotten smell. Mike vomited heavily. His body was going through a drastic change. My hand, it's so painful. This feeling is too wonderful. Everyone watched as Mike, who'd been kneeling on the ground, stood up again. Mike, who'd been 8 meters tall before, had now grown to 2 meters. Moreover, it continued to grow taller until it was nearly 3 meters tall, and its body had also expanded by several times. Mike suddenly smashed his hand at Ham. Ham caught it and took a step back. However, Mike's fist was already in Ham's hand. Ham raised the gun in his right hand and pointed it at Mike's head. I'm sorry, Mike. It's okay, bang. Mike's head was smashed, but his body didn't fall. He still stood there. The next moment, the headless body punched Ham's chest, and he was sent flying. However, the moment Ham was sent flying, he fired again. Bang, bang, bang. The tumor in the headless body's chest was shot, and it fell backward. Ham exhaled and stood up again. Captain, are you okay? I'm fine. Ham patted his chest. He's so strong. Captain, you're more like a monster. Ham looked into the depths of the tunnel. Chen Zhao had already disappeared. Let's go. If we meet that person again, he'll be our enemy. Ham finally made up his mind. No matter how they tried to fix their relationship now, they couldn't turn enemies into friends anymore. They would only be enemies. The team walked forward for a while. Finally, it wasn't a straight path anymore. This was an underground garden built with unknown materials. The interior ceiling of the garden was spherical, and the whole structure was composed of pieces of reflective panels. The top of the garden was a high-heat light source system used to simulate the spectrum and brightness of sunlight. Then, the reflective panels would reflect the strong light onto the plants below. There was also an automatic spraying system that would spray every few minutes. There were many purple flowers in the garden. They were tender and beautiful. Most of them had fists and bloomed brilliantly. No one could recognize the species of the flowers. Everyone carefully walked along the path of the garden, even though this place was filled with vitality and lush greenery. But no one dared to be careless. They clearly understood that the more beautiful they were, the more dangerous they were. Captain, look over there. One of the team members pointed at a rotten arm protruding from the soil under a purple flower tree not far away. The bulge under the soil looked like a person, and the main stem of the purple flower was rooted in the human form. A few of the team members covered their mouths and retched, their stomachs churning uncontrollably. These purple flowers use human corpses as nutrients. Ham's expression was cold. That's right. At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out. Everyone looked up and saw a person standing on the top of the wall. That person was wearing a white work uniform. He should be one of the researchers here, or maybe he was the mastermind behind the scenes. Who are you? Let me introduce myself. I'm Depler, the person in charge here. Captain Depler, Latino, 68 years old this year, a biogeneticist. 30 years ago, he was arrested for carrying out forbidden experiments and stealing corpses. He served 21 years in prison, Denzel said. You know him? I'm asked in surprise. I was once in charge of chasing after him. However, that mission ended in failure. Back then, I was just a new recruit, Denzel said. Did he do anything else after being released from prison? The same old problem. Carrying out dangerous, forbidden experiments, stealing corpses, murder, and terrorist attacks. More accurately, massacres. He set up a laboratory in a small town near the U.S.-Mexico border and released a poisonous gas into the town, causing over 20 people to die from the deadly virus. In the process of chasing after him, he caused the death of another 12 soldiers. After that, he disappeared without a trace. I'm glad there are still people who know me, Depler said loudly. He doesn't look like he's 68 years old. He looks like he's 40 years old at most. He looks even younger than a few years ago, Denzel said. Everyone revealed puzzled looks. Truth be told, they did not believe it either. The man standing at the top was really 68 years old. Depler was wearing glasses. His face had some unshaven stubble, and his hair was thick. Although he was only wearing a white coat, he still looked very elegant. It was hard to imagine that he was an evil scientist who had committed countless crimes. I am indeed Depler. This is all thanks to my many years of research. Now, my research is approaching perfection. You will be fortunate enough to be the first to benefit, Depler said with a smile. At that moment, Hem suddenly raised his gun and fired at Depler, who was tens of meters away. Bang! A sticky tentacle reached out from under Depler's white coat and blocked Ham's bullet. Everyone swallowed a mouthful of saliva. What was that? The end of the tentacle slowly opened up, revealing a mouth that looked like a petal. Next, the mouth spat out and the bullet flew back at Ham. Ham's cheek was cut by his own bullet. More tentacles slowly extended out from Depler's back. Do you see? Do you see that? In the future, humans will have many more tentacles. This way, they can carry out more work and live more conveniently. They have stronger cell structures. A tentacle can lift up to 3 tons, and its maximum length can reach 5 meters. Work that could only be done by machines in the past can now be done with tentacles. Moreover, they are directly connected to human sensory nerves, and their reaction speed is faster than hands and feet. They can even block bullets. This is the inevitable process of human evolution. Although everyone was shocked, they were still relatively clear-headed. They would not be bewitched by Depler's words. Evolution? You call this evolution? Ham sneered. This time, he put away his pistol and took out an automatic rifle from behind his back. You can block bullets from a pistol. I wonder if you can block bullets from an automatic rifle? Depler looked at the group of people pointing their machine guns at him, and a smile appeared on his face. Don't worry, I'm not the one you need to face now. There are still many failures in my garden. They're the enemies you need to face first. After saying that, Depler turned and entered the tunnel. The tunnel was once again blocked by the reflector. At that moment, a corpse stood up shakily in the garden. Captain, this is Resident Evil, right? Chapter 1992. The corpses were covered by the roots of the purple flowers. Some corpses were on their bodies, while others had purple flowers on their heads or backs. It seemed that the roots had given them the power to stand up again. Everyone switched to flamethrowers. The situation didn't look good, but Ham was unusually calm. The moment the flamethrower was fired, all the corpses were engulfed. But the flames died out faster than expected. At this time, the living corpses did not fall. Their broken bodies seemed to be flowing with red flames. The flowers on their bodies turned from purple to red. A corpse suddenly opened its mouth and spat out flames at everyone. Damn! Everyone dodged. They absorbed energy and changed their element through it. Chen Zhao looked at the corpses in the garden quietly. They were more agile and active than before. It was probably because they could only photosynthesize after absorbing ultraviolet. Therefore, the flowers didn't give the corpses enough vitality, which was why they were weak. Then, Ham and the others thought they were smart and used flames to attack the flowers and corpses. This made the corpses even harder to deal with. Of course, if it were Chun Zhao, he would probably do the same. After all, plants were restrained by flames. Normal people would think this way. But Chun Zhao also noticed that some corpses and symbiotic flowers were still burned. This meant that the upper limit of their energy absorption wasn't high. Chun Zhao caught a corpse and realized that the upper limit was indeed very low. This was understandable. Their bodies were already broken and couldn't absorb too much energy. They also couldn't be preserved for long. But the relationship between the host and the parasite was quite special. First, the symbiotic flower lived in the host's body. When it grew to a certain stage, it would give energy back to the host. This pattern could be maintained until the corpses were completely decayed. The symbiotic flower probably secreted some substance that could slow down the process. However, the decay was still an irreversible process. The symbiotic flower would lose its host sooner or later. Just then, Chun Zhao heard a pained shriek. A soldier was pounced on by a corpse and then burned to death by the fire it spat. But Ham quickly stabilized the situation. It had to be said that Ham's personal ability and command skills were more than a level higher than the other soldiers. Apart from being caught off guard at the beginning, they didn't give them too much trouble. Even if the zombies were faster and more agile, even if they had the ability to breathe fire, even though their numbers far outnumbered the soldiers. However, in the face of well-trained soldiers and excellent equipment, they still couldn't pose much of a threat. Soon, all the living corpses in the garden were cleared. Ham and the others were still on guard as they carefully walked down the aisle. Who knew if a few more living corpses would rise from the soil? Everyone let out a long sigh of relief after passing through the passage. Be careful, no one knows what else is here. But at that moment, the ground beneath their feet suddenly collapsed. Everyone slid down the trap beneath their feet. Puff, puff. Everyone fell onto a sandy ground. Fortunately, there was sand below them. Otherwise, this fall would have made them lose their fighting strength. Ham and the others got up and looked at everyone. Are you all okay? I'm fine. I'm fine. Everyone got up and began to observe their surroundings. However, they found themselves in a field the size of a football field, and the bottom was covered with fine sand. It was surrounded by a wall, and there were many seats on the high platform behind the wall. It was like a coliseum down there. On the seats beside it, there were more than 10 researchers in white coats sitting or standing. In the field, unless the people in the center used a sniper rifle, they wouldn't be able to attack the researchers. Captain, what should we do now? Just then, the sand in the distance suddenly rose up. Something's in the sand. Ham's expression changed. The thing under the sand was rapidly approaching them. However, the weapons in their hands couldn't penetrate the sand at all, let alone attack the thing under the ground. Just as the sand was flying in front of everyone, a huge mouth drilled out of the sand and bit down on one of the soldiers. Ham was shocked. The monster had crawled out right beside him. If the monster did not choose his teammates, but chose him instead, he would have become its food. It was a monster that looked like a snake, but its head was more like a viper's. There were many spores all over the back of the snake monster. Boom! The soldier was also very decisive. Without hesitation, he pulled the grenade and self-destructed. The bloody mouth was immediately blown to pieces. The explosives and flamethrower that the soldier carried also detonated, completely igniting the snake monster's body. The snake monster's burning body kept rolling on the ground. Just then, the other snake monsters crawled out of the sand. They crazily bit their own kind that had been ignited. Fire at will and kill them. Hurry, we can't give them a chance to crawl back into the sand. Thud, 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 boom, boom. One had to admit that Ham's reaction was extremely fast. He'd just escaped from the gates of hell, but he forced himself to calm down with a strong heart. Then, he stabilized the situation and fought back against the snake monsters. When the snake-shaped monsters were attacked by Ham and the others, some of them charged towards them. Others wanted to crawl back into the ground. The researchers in the audience were taking notes. Chun Zhao was also wearing a white coat and sitting on the other side. Looking at the battle, these snake-like monsters' greatest advantage was hiding in the sand. Once they left the sand, they were much less of a threat. One had to admit that Ham's ability to seize opportunities was too strong. In such a short and dangerous situation, he could actually grasp the snake monster's weakness and his own advantage. Who's that guy sitting opposite? I've never seen him before. Is he new? The lab hasn't had any newcomers in the past 3 months. Because of the Colosseum, the researchers could not see Chun Zhao's face clearly. Forget it. Let's continue recording data. After being parasitized by the evolution spores, these vipers' bodies become huge, but their intelligence drops significantly. That's normal. Some creatures' intelligence increases after being parasitized, but their bodies don't change much. This means that the evolution spores redistribute the body's functions and energy. Divine King of the Nine Heavens. Chapter 1993. Frowning, Ella Gonzalez stared at Chun Zhao from afar. That figure looked somewhat familiar, but she couldn't remember. Where had she seen him before? It seemed like he really was a colleague from the lab. Chun Zhao had seen Ella Gonzalez for a long time. Chun Zhao really didn't realize that this woman was also a disaster. By now, the battle below was coming to an end. Ham had lost 2 more people. The mutated vipers were all killed too. Ham realized that the flamethrower was very effective here. Snakes were very sensitive to heat sources. As long as the flamethrower was turned on, the mutated viper would jump in front of it. Then it would burn itself to death. To be honest, even Chun Zhao thought that these mutated monsters were a joke. They weren't even as good as the living corpses in the garden. Chun Zhao shook his head. This kind of battle was really boring. Let's go out and see if there's anything interesting here. Doppler watched the battle on the monitor. Ham had already defeated the mutated viper, but then the second group of monsters appeared. Taking advantage of this gap, Doppler's eyes caught a glimpse of a person appearing on another monitor. Who's the person in the warehouse in Area S? I've already locked it down. Apart from me, no one can go in. Who let him in? Doppler frowned. Where are the guards in Area S? Sir, I'll ask for you now, Doppler's assistant said. Throw those guards into the flower fertilizer or throw them into the spore culture tank. The assistant used the communicator to contact the guards in Area S, but there was no reply. Sir, the guard in Area S didn't reply. Something must have happened there. Doppler's expression changed drastically. He immediately ran to the monitor and pulled up the surveillance footage along the entrance of the warehouse. The 2 of them saw from the surveillance camera that all the guards along the corridor leading to the warehouse entrance in Area S had fallen to the ground. How can this be? There's so many people. How come there's no alarm when someone intrudes? Damn it, catch him! Doppler shouted hurriedly. Hurry, we can't let him mess around inside. As Doppler spoke, he saw Chun Zhao grab a stick and smash it at a container. Clang! The container broke, and a monster soaking in it fell to the ground. Chun Zhao kicked it. It was still alive. Chun Zhao ran to the second container and smashed it. The monster in the container was also alive. Chun Zhao was about to smash the third container when the speaker in the room sounded. Stop! Hurry up and stop. These monsters can't be released. They will kill everyone here. Hearing this, Chun Zhao no longer hesitated. He smashed the third container heavily with the rod in his hand. Hurry up and stop him. Hurry up and stop him. Doppler was really anxious now. He had no idea when this intruder had appeared. Previously, he thought that Ham's group was the only intruder, but he didn't expect another one to appear out of nowhere. Chun Zhao had smashed all 20 containers in the warehouse in Zone S. Chun Zhao looked back. Some monsters had already woken up. He didn't care about the mess and left in a carefree manner. Just as he reached the door, he heard footsteps in front of him. When Chun Zhao returned to the warehouse, the people in front had already charged in with weapons. But they didn't see Chun Zhao. Instead, a monster charged toward them. What's happening outside? The researchers in the Colosseum heard the intense gunshots outside. They couldn't help but look back. Ella Gonzalez was wearing a headset. Her colleagues' voices could be heard through it. Ella Gonzalez's expression changed drastically. "Oh no, let's go. Leave this place. What's happening?" All the monsters in Zone S have been released. Everyone's expression changed drastically. No one cared about the battle in the Colosseum anymore. Everyone hurried to escape. But as soon as they reached the exit, they were blocked by a half-human, half-snake monster. This monster was obviously designed to imitate the Medusa of Greek mythology. However, her size and appearance were more twisted, and she didn't have the ability to turn into stone. There were dozens of finger-thick snakes on her head. She grabbed a researcher and tore at his flesh crazily. This way was blocked. Ella Gonzalez and the other reacted quickly and turned back to the audience. They planned to escape through the other tunnel. Just then, they heard their colleague's screams. Ella Gonzalez looked back and saw that Medusa had already charged out of the tunnel. Seeing that Medusa had already caught up to them, Ella Gonzalez pushed her colleagues back, and he fell to the ground. When Ella Gonzalez ran over, she heard her colleagues' pitiful cries. Medusa bit the researcher a few times, then turned her gaze to Ella Gonzalez. But just then, Medusa saw the sand below. Ham and his team members were in a fierce battle with a few mutated giant wolves. Medusa immediately changed direction and jumped down from the audience, pouncing at a wolf. Her tail was thick and powerful, instantly strangling a giant wolf to death. The other giant wolves all changed their targets and attacked Medusa. "What's going on?" Ham and the others were dumbfounded. Wasn't this monster that looked like Medusa in cahoots with those giant wolves? "Captain, what's going on?" "I don't know. Let them kill each other. Let's go." Ham looked around and saw that there was a sealed entrance at the edge of the Colosseum. Everyone carefully retreated, but Medusa and the wolves clearly had no time to care about Ham and the others. Ham and the others used a bomb to blow open the sealed entrance. After a few steps, they saw corpses everywhere. Most of the corpses were badly mutilated from being bitten by something. What the hell is going on? It's very likely that the monsters here have gone out of control. Just like Resident Evil, the place had completely fallen into chaos. The battle between humans and monsters, monsters against monsters, was constantly happening here. Of course, there were also battles between humans. Ham was very shrewd. He would always appear at the right time and clean up the mess. It didn't matter if they were humans or monsters. The weapons in their hands could also kill monsters more efficiently. But even they couldn't be dealt with by just anyone. Very soon, they ran into trouble. They broke into a very large room covered in spider webs. There were more than a dozen researchers hanging on the spider webs. And in the middle of the spider webs, there was a half-human, half-spider monster. Chapter 1994. What Ella Gonzalez saw was carnage and chaos. Everything was out of order. Ella Gonzalez pushed open a room door and quickly closed it. This was the surveillance room, but there was another person in it. The person was leaning back on a swivel chair with one leg on the control panel, watching the bloody slaughter on the screen. Ella Gonzalez frowned and took a step forward. "It's you." Ella Gonzalez was really frightened. She subconsciously extended the tentacle she'd hidden in her white coat. Chen Zhao turned his head. He looked at Ella Gonzalez and then at the aggressive tentacle. "Miss Ella, you're so professional. If I didn't come here, would you have arranged a schedule for me?" Chen Zhao more or less understood now. Where did these people get so many experimental materials? They were all tricked by tour guides. What could be more convenient than a tour guide? He could even earn some extra money. Ella Gonzalez's expression was cold. "Who are you?" Since Chen Zhao had come here, he definitely wasn't an ordinary person. Chen Zhao raised his head and thought seriously. "How should I put it? I seem to be a troublemaker now." Chen Zhao felt that he really hadn't done anything serious after coming here. In terms of killing enemies, he hadn't really killed many monsters. So he just wandered around and caused trouble. After leaving Area S, he went to their cafeteria. Speaking of which, the chef here is really good. If he hadn't died so early, Chen Zhao would have taken him out. The most important thing to do was to kill the monster that ate Chef and take revenge for him. "Those monsters outside were released by you." "You can't say that. That's not releasing," Chen Zhao said seriously. "Also, put away that tentacle of yours. It'll be good for everyone." Chun Zhao said with a serious expression. Do you know what the consequences of your actions will be? I do. Look, it's so fun. Chun Zhao pointed at the screen. All the surveillance screens were filled with bloody scenes. You call this fun? What else? I thought you'd like it. After all, both of you seem to be doing the same thing. Why? Are you starting to feel uncomfortable now that your identities have been swapped? You will die here, too. No, I won't die here. Chun Zhao suddenly noticed that Depler was fighting with a monster in one of the surveillance images. Is that Depler your boss? He looks really strong. All the monsters in Area S were sent in by him, Ella Gonzalez said. Although the monster fighting Depler couldn't be recognized in its original form, it could speak the human language in authentic American English. There was a deep entanglement between the two. If it was made into an American TV series, it would have at least 5 seasons. The monster used to be a researcher called Felsic. According to them, he was a colleague of Depler and had the same interests and ambitions. Even their personalities were about the same. In any case, they were the kind of people who were not liked and had done many illegal things. Later, Depler went to prison and stayed there obediently for 21 years. When he came out, he realized that his research had been taken by this like-minded person. However, Depler endured the humiliation and acted like nothing had happened. He became Felsic's assistant. He also took away Felsic's research and power bit by bit. Of course, the final reason for the conflict was that Felsic's experiment on himself had failed. Depler finally activated his early preparations. Because Felsic had lost his human form, his subordinates who had been on his side completely switched sides. Felsic was also a waste product, soaked in formalin and anesthetics for several years. When the two met, it was like old and new hatred, like firewood meeting fire. As they fought, they criticized each other's various bad deeds. In conclusion, there were no good people on either side. Both sides were evenly matched. Neither could do anything to the other. Felsic, it's not good for either of us to keep fighting like this. How about we both take a step back? I'll give you freedom and let you leave. Depler, do you think I'm stupid? If I leave now, I'll be sent directly to the zoo. Why don't you and I temporarily put aside our grudges and suppress this riot together? You can also continue to stay here. This place belongs to me. It belongs to me. Felsic raged. Saying this now is meaningless. I promise that as long as we suppress this riot, you can be the adjutant here. Your power will be second only to mine. Felsic's brain was racing. While he was considering the pros and cons, he was also considering whether Depler would keep his promise. I know what you're worried about. Depler saw that face Siki seemed to be moved and immediately pressed on. Ever since I lost you, my research has become more and more difficult to progress. Only now do I understand that we're the best partners in research. If I want to continue my research, you and I are both indispensable. Felsic obviously wouldn't believe Depler's words so easily. He'd already been tricked once, and that time he'd lost everything. This time, he wouldn't be tricked so easily. Think about our ambitions in university. Think about our ideals. Think about our pursuits. No one understands you better than I do. Similarly, no one understands me better than you do. Depler continued, and you can't return to normal society like this. You can't do it now. Even if you really could kill me, where could you go? You won't be able to control this research base. One had to admit that Depler's words did make sense. But Depler's personality still made him retreat. Hey, hey. At that moment, the loudspeaker above their heads rang out. If you two want to fight, then fight properly. Don't shoot your mouths off. Think about it. Someone who treats you like trash and soaks you in formalin. Why would he share power with you? After the riot, do you really think he'll let you go? Even if he accepts you, will the researchers in this research base accept you? Maybe you'll just return to the lab and become their lab rat. Your only chance now is to kill the person in front of you. Kill everyone here. Damn you. Depler gritted his teeth. Who are you? Felsic asked loudly, confused. I'm the one who released you from the container. I'm here to save you. Chapter 1995. I hate being ordered around and dominated by others. Fei Si Chi gritted his teeth, and a creaking sound came out of his mouth. Sometimes, you should just accept arrangements. Chen Zhao said. It's good for you. He's hiding in the control room, Depler said. Clearly, since Chen Zhao knew that they were fighting, he must have seen it through the images in the control room. Fisky turned his head and glanced at Depler. He was hesitating whether he should go find Chen Zhao first or fight Depler first. Just like I said before, I can accept you again. He is the main culprit behind this chaos. Kill him, and you can obtain what you lost in the past. Facey knew that Depler couldn't be trusted, but he also knew that he didn't have many choices. Of course, he felt that he could just suppress the chaos here first and then kill Depler. Ella Gonzalez looked at Chen Zhao. She was hesitating whether to attack him or not. She'd also been modified, but she still wasn't a battle type. She was a researcher, but Chen Zhao seemed to be strong. Just then, the wall was smashed through. A furry monster charged in. It had the fangs of a crocodile, the compound eyes of a dragonfly, the body of a bear, and the claws of a wolf. Chen Zhao jumped lightly and landed on the monster's head. Then he jumped down to the hole in the wall. Ms. Ella, play with it slowly. I'm leaving now. Ella Gonzalez's face paled in fear. He looked at the monster that was pieced together in front of him. Test subject number 12 was nicknamed the Beast. But Beast was a very special test subject. The other test subjects were either modified or mutated. On the other hand, wild beasts were truly pieced together. It used the genes of various beasts to create parts or organs of beast and then piece them together. Finally, through the parasitism of evolutionary spores, the monster was activated. It had the racial advantages of various creatures. Some species had hidden talents. For example, the power of an ant was hidden in its body. It could be said that it was one of the most dangerous test subjects. Ella Gonzalez had seen Beast a few times, but it was always through the container. The wild beasts had existed longer than she had been in this research base. In order to suppress the wild beasts, they were constantly soaked in anesthetics and had to be injected with strong tranquilizers regularly. After soaking for a few years, the beast became as thin as a stick. However, after it broke free, it quickly recovered its stamina by devouring the researchers and other monsters. Its mouth could bite through an iron pillar with a diameter of 15 centimeters. Ella Gonzalez felt like she was going to die. But just then, the beast chose to chase after Chen Zhao. Clearly, it was very unhappy that Chen Zhao had stepped on its head when he was running. Or maybe it thought that old flesh tasted better. Chen Zhao was surprised that the beast would chase after him. The beast looked cruel, bloodthirsty, and irrational. In reality, there was still a certain level of thinking. At least it remembers hatred. And this kind of emotion was very pure. When it bore a grudge against a person, it would even abandon its prey or food right in front of it. But Chen Zhao wasn't that easy to catch. In the blink of an eye, the beast had lost sight of him. However, it had an amazing sense of smell. All of its characteristics were the most powerful in nature. Of course, it was as the saying went. Mutation and evolution were two different things. This kind of assembled monster had the same flaw. It was instability. Evolutionary spores couldn't really make a species evolve, nor could they completely fuse the genes of a few completely different species. It wasn't even a living thing. It was just an organ that had been glued together. Chen Zhao wandered around. Suddenly, he saw a tunnel. There was a sign at the entrance, Dustless Lab. The outside world was in chaos, but the inside world was still peaceful. Many guards stood at the entrance to prevent the monsters from entering. They even set up a high-voltage electric fence to block the entrance. Chen Zhao killed all the guards. Not a single one was left. Then he walked into the Dustless Lab. Chen Zhao saw many isolation rooms. Some of the glass rooms contained creatures that had just completed experiments. The other room was a breeding room, which was used to cultivate evolution spores. There were still researchers working in those rooms. It was as if the bloody battlefield outside had nothing to do with them. Chen Zhao had pretty much seen the entire Dustless Lab, but he only had a rough look. They seemed to have extracted the essence of some kind of plant. Then the zombie spores from the Amazon rainforest were put into the plant essence to be cultivated. Then the zombie spores would undergo a few more steps of mutation and cultivation finally turning into evolutionary spores. But to Chun Zhao, they were more like enhanced zombie spores than evolutionary spores. In the Amazon rainforest, the real zombie spores only attach themselves to the insects and suck the nutrients from the insects. After killing the insects, they would find new hosts. They repeated the same process over and over again. They didn't have the ability to make other species evolve or mutate. Chun Zhao opened the lab where the plant essence was extracted. He could vaguely feel that the plant had some magic. When the researcher in the lab saw Chun Zhao come in, he immediately started cursing. "Who let you in? And why aren't you wearing the dustless suit? Outsiders can't come in. No matter what reason you have, get out." Chun Zhao ignored the researcher's scolding and continued to do whatever he wanted in the lab. Seeing Chun Zhao's dirty hands, the researcher walked up to stop him. Chun Zhao casually waved his hand, and the researcher was thrown out, breaking the glass. Chun Zhao picked up the plants. Unfortunately, he couldn't recognize their origin. He could only feel a thin magic power from them. Chun Zhao put them all away. He would find someone to identify them later and see if he could find their origin. Chun Zhao continued walking. Suddenly, he saw a metal door embedded into the wall. The metal door didn't look like a product of this era. It seemed more like some ancient civilization had embedded it into the wall. Chun Zhao came to the metal door and broke it off from the wall. Then, he put it back into his spatial ring. This was Chun Zhao's habit. If he didn't know, didn't recognize, or felt that something was valuable, he would put it away first and evaluate it in the future. Chapter 1996. Just then, the Dustless Lab, which had lost its outer defense line, was invaded by the twisted monsters. The Dustless Lab was also the most important place in Sarah's lab. There were a lot of controls for frozen experiments. As the controls were destroyed, a large number of frozen experiments were released. If the warehouse in Area S contained uncontrollable and dangerous experimental bodies, then the experimental bodies frozen and sealed in ice in the Dustless Laboratory were large in quantity and basically formed standardized experimental bodies. They were controllable, which was why they were mass-produced. But the biggest problem was that they didn't defrost normally. The researchers in Depler didn't have time to install control chips on them before they were activated. Their defrosting further increased the chaos in the lab. Most of the researchers and guards here had been modified, so they had a certain amount of combat power. Therefore, they possessed a certain amount of combat power. However, the enemies they faced were not conventional enemies. They were weapons made by the researchers themselves. Ella Gonzalez escaped in a sorry state. But she was lucky. At least she hadn't encountered a large number of experiments or those she couldn't handle. Most of them were scattered, individual, experimental bodies. The most dangerous one was in the surveillance room. Experiment number 12, Beast, had broken into the room. But this time, Beast had changed directions and chased after Chun Zhao. She was lucky enough to escape from the Beast's claws. Now, she only wanted to escape this place and Sarah's lab. This place was completely out of control. Even Depler couldn't suppress the chaos here. Just then, a few people suddenly charged out. Ella Gonzalez recognized these people. They were Ham and the others. However, the team that originally had more than a dozen people now only had 7 people left. The moment Ham and the others saw Ella, they immediately pointed their guns at her. "Don't kill me. Don't kill me. I can get you out of here," Ella screamed. "Wait, don't shoot first," Ham ordered immediately. "I was forced. I was caught by Depler to conduct those terrifying experiments. I'm innocent," Ella Gonzalez cried out in terror. "I just want to escape. I know a way that leads to the outside." By now, Ham and the others were no longer willing to continue their mission in this chaotic hell of flesh and blood. They also wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. The level of chaos and the strength of the monsters had exceeded the limits of what they could handle. In fact, they had more or less encountered some monsters in the past. However, the monsters they had encountered in the past were definitely not as large as the one in Sarah's laboratory. In the past, a team might only need to kill 1 or 2 of them. They weren't like these monsters that gathered in groups. Moreover, the terrain here was too complicated. Some monsters were very cunning and very good at using the terrain to launch sneak attacks. All they regretted now was that they had not brought military-grade explosives. A laboratory of this scale could only be destroyed by military-grade explosives, as well as everything else in here. At this moment, all the speakers in the entire laboratory rang out at the same time. Warning, the self-destruct device has been activated and will detonate within an hour. All personnel, please evacuate immediately. What? How could this be? Is this red button a self-destruct device? Chun Zhao rubbed his chin. That saves me a lot of trouble. Chun Zhao was suddenly in a good mood. A self-destruct device had clearly solved a lot of problems. However, Chun Zhao believed that not everyone would die in the explosion. Some people definitely had secret passages that could escape outside. So, Chun Zhao had to block the exit and wipe out everything completely. Chun Zhao realized that he was a bit lost. Why did it feel like every path was the same? He walked here and there. Suddenly, he saw a few familiar figures before him. How come it's them? They're not all dead yet. Chun Zhao looked at Ham and the others. Just then, he realized that there was another person among them, Ella Gonzalez. How did they get together? Also, where were they going? It didn't seem like the way they'd come in. Chun Zhao followed Ham and the others. Ella Gonzalez seemed to be leading the way for Ham and the others. But just then, a roar of a beast came from behind Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao turned around and saw that it was the assembled monster. It seemed to be very persistent in chasing Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao frowned. He'd only stepped on its head not long ago. Did it have to chase it all the way? Those who didn't know might think that he had an irreconcilable feud with it. Chun Zhao didn't plan on fighting it. This kind of mindless monster was the most effective weapon of destruction. It didn't know what fear was at all. Chun Zhao sent it flying with a kick. The beast flew backward along the walkway. Let's go quickly. I hear some uncomfortable sounds. Ella Gonzalez still remembered the roar of the wild beast. She could feel that the beast was nearby. If they encountered it, they wouldn't have a chance of winning. If it weren't for the fact that the beast couldn't be controlled, it would be the perfect product. It had the strength of an ant. It could instantly explode with strength hundreds of times its own. It also had the compound eyes of an insect. It had 360 degrees without any blind spots and could capture moving enemy units more accurately than a normal person. It had the speed of a cheetah. When it exploded with full strength, it could even approach the speed of sound. It could also create venom and spray poison. It also had the ability to sense heat. These were the King Cobra's abilities. It also had an almost indestructible defense. It could withstand the direct impact of an intermediate bomb. Ella Gonzalez didn't even know how to kill it. Fortunately, it didn't have any intelligence. Otherwise, it might replace humans. So, the wisest choice was to avoid the beast. Are you sure this is the right path? Why do I feel like this road is moving downward? Ham raised his doubts. This path is indeed going down, Ella Gonzalez said. Ella Gonzalez said, this road leads to the direction of the freight elevator. The supplies we need are all lowered by the freight elevator to the bottom and then transported to the other underground floors, so we can take the freight elevator directly back to the surface. Chapter 1997. When they reached the cargo landing area, it had also become a battlefield. Because it was responsible for the cargo, there was a lot of space. But it was also occupied by monsters, and they were constantly fighting here. And Ella Gonzalez was not the first person to think of this route. Many of the lab staff had thought of this escape route. That was why almost all the people who were still alive came here. There were also some monsters who were rational and wanted to escape as well. Between monsters and monsters, between monsters and humans, between humans and humans, they were all constantly killing each other. The ground was already covered in sticky blood, and broken limbs were everywhere. A small monster less than a third the size of an adult suddenly flashed and appeared in front of Ham. Ham subconsciously lifted his leg to send it flying. But the small monster was surprisingly agile. Its figure flashed again, and it dodged Ham's kick. At the same time, it jumped on Ham's body and clawed at Ham's face. Ham's face was left with a shocking claw mark that ran across his entire face. Ham reached out to grab the small monster and squeezed it hard. The small monster was crushed to death. Actually, if the humans could trust and cooperate with each other, they would have a chance to escape. Although the cargo elevator could not take everyone up at once, it could still be divided into several trips. As long as they killed all the monsters in the way, they could completely escape this underground base that was about to be destroyed in batches. But now, no one trusted anyone. The monsters were even more irrational. If they united, they would definitely be the strongest. But their irrationality was reflected in that they did not distinguish between friend and foe. Or rather, they did not think that there were creatures present who could be their companions. They saw everything as enemies, and they did not know how to escape. Of course, they were not completely irrational. They still knew hatred. They could vaguely remember the cruel things that some of them had done to them. Rather than killing, it would be more accurate to say that they were venting. Ella Gonzalez's expression was solemn. Let's kill our way over there. The elevator is there. The elevator stopped at the bottom, but from the elevator to the outside, there were battles and messy corpses everywhere. It was not that no one had tried to get into the elevator first, but before the elevator could rise, they were killed. The elevator door could not close or rise because of the corpses. Suddenly, a piece of sticky flesh fell from above, blocking the way of Ham and the others. And this piece of flesh seemed to be alive, wriggling and merging with the surrounding flesh and corpses. What's this? Test subject number 5, flesh embryo, Ella Gonzalez said. Ella Gonzalez said, the original plan was to create a perfect life by fusing all kinds of genes. However, there was an accident during the experiment, and the perfect life was not born. After cultivating the first flesh and blood, it began to devour all living things and flesh, turning them into a part of its own body. Even the few experimenters present were devoured. Does it have any weaknesses? Does it have any? Ella Gonzalez said, in that experiment, Doppler used electric shocks to make it consume its flesh and blood. In the end, it was only the size of a fist, and then it was sealed in the warehouse in Zone S. I didn't expect it to become so big in this chaos. They did have taser guns, but the power of the taser guns was obviously not enough to pose a threat to the huge flesh in front of them. Can't flames do? It's effective, but not very effective, Ella Gonzalez said. Ella Gonzalez said, almost all the experimental bodies in the laboratory have been tested and modified to withstand high temperatures. The flesh embryo completely blocked the elevator entrance. It was also very aloof and did not take the initiative to attack others. It was more interested in the corpses and flesh all over the ground. Of course, just because it was not aggressive didn't mean it was harmless. If anyone accidentally came into contact with the flesh embryo would directly turn that person into a part of itself. Suddenly, one of the entrances to the cargo center was smashed open. The beast's body flew out of the entrance and smashed into the flesh embryo. The flesh embryo immediately wanted to devour the beast, but the beast reacted very quickly. In an instant, it shattered the sticky flesh and blood on the embryo, carving out a bloody path and regaining freedom. But the beast also instantly hated the flesh embryo. It attacked the flesh embryo in a frenzy. The flesh embryo wriggled and stretched out a hand made of flesh and blood, smashing towards the beast. But the beast managed to block the attack. The wild beast's berserk strength was able to easily block the palm made of flesh that was even larger than its body. It was rare for Doppler and fish to work together. They were both very powerful. Normal people or monsters weren't their match at all. Chen Zhao sat on the platform, enjoying the chaos. Suddenly, a voice rang in Chen Zhao's ears. You look very relaxed. Chen Zhao turned his head and realized that it was a feline, but it was standing. It was taller than a human, but its limbs and habits looked more like a human's. Were you originally human? Chen Zhao looked at the tall feline curiously. I'm not sure. I'm a combination of human and cat genes. I also inherited their memories. With that, the feline flashed its claws. But my hatred for this place is the same. Your enemies are all down there. I'm not from here, Chen Zhao said. I'll give you an apple and we won't fight. Okay? You're wearing the same clothes as them. Would you believe me if I told you that the white coat isn't mine? No. The feline shook its head. I'm doing this for your own good. You can't beat me. Bang! Suddenly, a bullet shot toward Chun Zhao from the center of the battlefield. Chun Zhao tilted his head slightly and dodged the bullet. Then, he looked at the center of the battlefield. Ham's expression was serious as he stared at Chun Zhao coldly. The guy really wasn't dead. Come to think of it, this guy was so strong, it was reasonable for him to be able to survive until now. It's him. He's not dead. Ella Gonzalez was also shocked by the fact that Chun Zhao was still alive. When she saw the beast chasing Chun Zhao earlier, she thought that he was dead for sure. She didn't expect Chun Zhao to still be fine. He was even watching everything as a bystander. Just then, the feline also attacked Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao dodged the attack and casually threw a punch. But the feline also dodged the attack. Its four claws clung to the wall, and it stared down at Chun Zhao. Chapter 1998. Speed. This workout had a speed that could make people despair. Therefore, it was also one of the sealed test subjects in the warehouse in Zone S. Test number 3, Lightning. Lightning was originally the pet cat of one of the test subjects, but its owner had cruelly killed it. Then, its organs and genes were extracted and fused with its owner. Right now, Lightning couldn't tell if it was the owner or the pet. The two minds fused but didn't become one. The two thoughts clashed violently, causing it to lose control. The werewolf attacked Chun Zhao again. Chun Zhao dodged again and counterattacked the werewolf at the same time. The two went back and forth. Neither touched the water. Their speed was already so fast that it made people's hair stand on end. Ham and the others widened their eyes and stared at Chun Zhao in disbelief. Especially Ella Gonzalez. She didn't expect Chun Zhao to be so strong. She knew the werecat's strength better than anyone else. The werecat's extreme speed had already surpassed normal creatures. It was the only one among all the test subjects in the base. Even wild beasts couldn't match the werecat's speed. Wild beasts had high attributes in all aspects, but their speed wasn't the strongest. The werecat, on the other hand, was like lightning and could reach a shocking Mach 4. But now, there was actually someone who could fight with the werecat in such a dazzling manner. It wasn't accurate to say it was dazzling, because the others couldn't even see their movements clearly. Only when the two of them paused for a split second would they appear for a brief moment. To be honest, even Chun Zhao found it unbelievable. The werecat's stamina and fitness weren't very strong. Even if Chun Zhao stood still and the werecat attacked him with full force, it would only be the werecat that would be injured. But with such a fitness, it could actually produce such explosive speed. Chun Zhao was indeed shocked. This required extreme coordination of the body and extreme coordination of the joints. On a larger scale, humans' various functions couldn't reach the limits of living creatures, but humans were the species with the most potential on Earth. Most species on Earth were like this too. If a species reached the extreme in a certain ability, it meant that the distribution of energy in its body would be out of balance. As expected, the werecat slowed down after a while. Felines had never been patient. The werecat's stamina was dropping rapidly. However, when the werecat realized that it could no longer maintain its super speed, it immediately slowed down and retreated to a safe distance. Chun Zhao and the werecat fought for more than a minute. Neither of them touched the other. At this time, a large number of mutant rats suddenly fell from the ceiling of the cargo base. Chun Zhao immediately retreated. The mutant rats started attacking all living things in a frenzy. Chun Zhao realized that there was an extremely large rat on the ceiling. It should be the king of the mutated rats. Ella Gonzalez's expression turned even uglier. The appearance of the Rat King made the situation even more chaotic. The Rat King had an army of countless rats. Although the size of these mutated rats was too small, their numbers were enough to make one's hair stand on end. Mutated rats attack everything, even flesh and blood embryos. However, the flesh embryo was not to be trifled with. The mutated rats that attacked, they were all swallowed by it. At this time, the Rat King also came down from the ceiling. It pounced on the flesh embryo and devoured it crazily. Taking advantage of the fact that their king was devouring the flesh embryo, the other mutated mice also began to crazily fight for food. At this moment, the Rat King's movement suddenly stopped. Then it began to roll on the ground. Something in its body seemed to be about to break out. In fact, this was also a battle between two experimental bodies, the Rat King and the flesh embryo. One was digesting the flesh embryo, while the other was trying to assimilate the Rat King's body from within. Now, it was a matter of who killed the other first. While the Rat King was rolling on the ground, the other monsters were not idle either. The beasts went up and killed the Rat King directly. The Wercat abandoned Chen Zhao and rushed to the Rat King's body. She needed to replenish her energy. After the Rat King died, a part of its body was eaten by the other experimental bodies. The flesh embryo pounced to the Rat King's body and assimilated it from within. Just then, the flesh embryo withered like a fungus, as if something was causing it to quickly die. Depler, who was still fighting, shuddered. He turned to look at the flesh embryo. Depler's expression was very complicated, excited or happy, or afraid. The flesh embryo wasn't dying. Its essence was being absorbed from within. The originally withered skin began to harden, like an irregularly shaped egg. Depler was excited because the results of his original designs and experiments were finally being realized at this moment. But the bigger problem was that there were no limits to the flesh and blood embryos. It cannot be controlled. Attack it, destroy it. Ella Gonzalez shouted nervously. Don't let it hatch. Ham and the others also realized that the egg was nurturing some terrifying creature. They started to fire at the egg without any regard for energy consumption. Thud, 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 boom, boom, boom. Suddenly a red figure charged out of the egg and pounced on a soldier. Ham immediately turned his gun to aim at the red figure, but before he could shoot, the red figure's tail had already swept him away. The red figure bit the soldier to death with one bite, then the neck. He died instantly. At this time, everyone finally saw the red figure clearly. It was a humanoid creature that was about 5 meters tall, and its entire body was red. Its body was covered in hard scales, and a pair of horns grew from its head. Its face protruded outwards, especially its mouth. It was filled with sharp, thin teeth that were very sharp and hard. The length and structure of its limbs were very similar to humans, but humans definitely did not have sharp claws. The red creature's claws had a metallic luster, and its eyes were dark red. This is my perfect creation, a truly perfect creation. I shall name you Perfect Scarlet. Depler stared at the red creature with glowing eyes. It was even more perfect than he'd expected. The streamlined yet extremely strong body, the perfect combination of strength and speed. He wanted to tell the world that this was his masterpiece. He could not wait to announce the creature's name, Perfect Scarlet. Chen Zhao tilted his head and looked at the Perfect Scarlet that had a new name. Was this a fucking demon? Chen Zhao suspected that Depler had added some demon-related cells or organs and then revived the demon. Chapter 1999. Perfect Scarlet slowly turned her head to look at Depler. I'm Gatsberia. Perfect Scarlet's silent gaze made one's hair stand on end. When did you get a name? Who gave it to you? I'm your creator. Only I have the right to give you a name. Gatsberia looked at Depler silently. Suddenly, the horns on Gatsberia's head shot out a beam of red light without any warning. Depler jumped in fright. The tentacles behind him immediately blocked in front of him. But the tentacles were instantly pierced through and the red light hit his chest. Depler's face was filled with shock. What kind of power was this? It was completely beyond his understanding. You're not dead. Gatsberia walked toward Depler. Depler realized that he couldn't move an inch. He could only watch as Gatsberia strolled toward him. I'll take your soul. Gatsberia reached out and grabbed Depler's face. Then he pulled forcefully, and Depler's soul was pulled out. Depler's body had been modified. He was no longer human, but his soul was still in human form. Such an unclean soul. It's perfect as the source of my power. Lycagat's Beria opened his mouth and swallowed Depler's soul. Having lost his soul, Depler's body collapsed on the ground. Although his body's powerful recovery ability was still healing the hole in his chest, it was already an empty shell without a soul. Chen Zhao looked at Lycagat's Beria. Beria? So he was also the king of Sloth's subordinate? Amon was also Beria's subordinate. They had the same bloodline, but their forms were so different. They were even two completely different species. At this moment, a claw appeared behind Lycagat's Beria without any warning. Lycagat's Beria reacted quickly and dodged immediately. The claw belonged to a cat person. Although Lycagat's Beria had already dodged, his back was still scratched by the cat person. B** starred. How dare you offend the great Lycagat's Beria? Lycagat's Beria was furious. His cat-like body moved. His animal instincts told him that Lycagat's Beria was dangerous. The horns on Lycagat's Beria's head shot out another red shockwave. But this time, it wasn't directed. Instead, it spread in all directions in a circular arc. The werewolf was immediately hit by Lycagat's Beria's red shockwave. Instantly, the cat-human felt as if her body had been filled with lead, and she couldn't move at all. Chen Zhao was also affected by the red shockwave. Instantly, he felt like he couldn't move. However, the feeling was very good and short-lived. It reminded him of when he fought against the Black Dragon in the Tower of Trials. Black Dragon had a similar move. Through the suppression of Dragon's might, he could temporarily immobilize Chen Zhao. Lycagat's Beria's red shockwave was very similar to the Black Dragon's ability. But in terms of effectiveness, it wasn't as powerful as the Black Dragon. This was understandable. Lycagat's Beria wasn't as powerful as the Black Dragon. Lycagat's Beria had already grabbed the werecat's neck while she was frozen. Damn bastard, go to hell. The werecat, who had been fighting fiercely with Chen Zhao earlier, was instantly strangled to death by Lycagat's Beria. The werecat's greatest strength was its speed. Once its speed was restricted, it would lose everything. Just as Lycagat's Beria finished off the werecat, a huge force attacked him from behind. It was an attack from a beast. The beast's terrifying strength sent Lycagat's Beria flying. Be it humans or experimentals, they all felt a great threat from Lycagat's Beria. Therefore, at this time, they actually joined forces without any discussion. Ham and the others attacked Lycagat's Beria, who had been sent flying. Bullets and bombs rained down on Lycagat's Beria. Everyone and the experimentals sensed it. If they didn't kill Lycagat's Beria, they would be the ones to die. But to Lycagat's Beria, the power of the bullets and bombs was only a tickle. No, don't you have stronger weapons? Ella Gonzalez said anxiously. These weapons can't hurt this monster at all. Bang! As soon as Ella Gonzalez finished speaking, a red light pierced through her. Ella Gonzalez fell to the ground, vomiting blood in large mouthfuls. Lycagat's Beria stood in the rain of bullets, his expression extremely arrogant. You should show enough respect when facing someone more powerful than you. Just then, the beast attacked again. Its heavy claws slapped at Lycagat's Beria. Lycagat's Beria also raised his arm to block the attack. But he was still not as strong as the beast. Under the beast's continuous attacks, he was forced to retreat. Lycagat's Beria immediately changed his strategy and avoided fighting the beast head-on. Every time the beast attacked, Lycagat's Beria would use a red shockwave. The beast was a real beast. It didn't know how to dodge at all. After being hit by the shockwave, the beast would pause for a few seconds. Then, Lycagat's Beria would use these seconds to counterattack the beast. Soon, the beast, who had been at an advantage, became passive in the blink of an eye. It was covered in wounds. Chen Zhao realized that Lycagat's Beria couldn't keep releasing the red shockwave. The others didn't notice, but Chen Zhao did. Every time, Lycagat's Beria would release it for around a minute. Also, after each release, his attacks would be much weaker. Let's go. Let these monsters keep fighting. Ella Gonzalez didn't want to waste any more time here. She was seriously injured. Although her vitality was stronger than normal people's, she wasn't immortal. She needed to find a place to heal. This was definitely not a good place to do so. Ham and the others didn't want to keep fighting either. Right now, everyone's attention was on Lika Gatsbaria. This was a good chance for them to escape. Everyone boarded the freight elevator. Just as the doors were about to close, Face Siki jumped in. Suddenly, the atmosphere in the elevator became tense again. "I won't stop you," Face Siki said. "Don't stop me either." Everyone exchanged glances and reluctantly agreed to Face Siki's request. Although Face Siki was in monster form, he could still communicate with them. Now, no one wanted to fight. They just wanted to escape. Chapter 2000. But when the elevator rose less than 10 meters, there was a loud noise. Something seemed to fall from the elevator. Then, there was an intense feeling of weightlessness. Bang! The elevator landed heavily on the ground. Everyone felt their blood boil. Then, the metal door above the elevator was lifted open. That detestable face peeked in. But what welcomed him was Ham's bullets. "Get out!" Ham yelled. Holding a machine gun, he kept shooting at Lika Gatsbaria. Fisky kicked the elevator door open. The others escaped from the elevator one after another. Just then, there was a scream from behind. Ham had been disemboweled by Lika Gatsbaria. Boom! At the last moment, Ham had detonated the explosives on him. Chen Zhao watched Ham's ending silently. No matter how many grudges he had with Ham, he had to admit his final glory. He had truly accomplished his mission with a clear conscience. However, his last effort hadn't caused any damage to Lika Gatsbaria. Rika Gatsbaria strolled out of the raging flames. The freight elevator was their last hope. Now, the freight elevator had been destroyed too. Their last hope had been destroyed too. There wasn't much time left. 45 minutes had passed since Chun Zhao had activated the self-destruct device. In other words, they only had 15 minutes now. If they could pass through the even more chaotic research base, if they escaped from the main entrance, they might still have hope. But 15 minutes was far from enough. Moreover, Lika Gatsbaria clearly didn't plan on letting anyone leave alive. If they wanted to escape from the main entrance, the biggest obstacle they had to overcome was Lika Gatsbaria. He was an almost invincible monster. Not only did he have superhuman speed and strength, but he also had unimaginable abilities. Lika Gatsbaria seemed to be very satisfied with Ella Gonzalez and the others' fear of him. Then, he looked at Chun Zhao, who had been sitting on a metal bar. Chun Zhao hadn't hidden himself at all. However, his uninvolved attitude made Lika Gatsbaria even more dissatisfied. Suddenly, a beam of red light shot out from Lika Gatsbaria's horns. Chun Zhao rolled to the side, avoiding Lika Gatsbaria's red light. When the red light hit the bar, Chun Zhao could only fall to the ground. Bastard kneel. Lika Gatsbaria's arrogance made Chun Zhao speechless. If Chun Zhao could contact Belial now, he would probably ask her if this guy was really her descendant. Ella Gonzalez's eyes flashed. Perhaps Chun Zhao could stall Lika Gatsbaria. In this way, she might have a chance to pass through the experimental area and escape from the main entrance. Although the chances were slim, Ella Gonzalez did not want to die. She wanted to live. No matter what, she didn't want to die. Lika Gatsbaria stared at Chun Zhao, who still had his hands in the pockets of his white coat. There was not a speck of dust on Chun Zhao's clothes, as if he hadn't fought at all. "Are you so sure that you could defeat me?" Chun Zhao took out an angelic crystal. He flicked it with his thumb and grasped the air. Although it was only a finger-sized angelic crystal, the holy aura it emitted still made Rika Gatsbaria feel threatened. "I know you're afraid of this." Chun Zhao smiled at Rika Gatsbaria. When Rika Gatsbaria saw the angelic crystal, his expression changed involuntarily. However, it wasn't easy for him to retreat so easily. "That thing can threaten me, but it's not enough." Chun Zhao crooked his finger. "You can try." Rika Gatsbaria instantly released a red shockwave. It was another full-screen attack. Even Chun Zhao could not dodge it. Seizing the moment Chun Zhao was frozen, Rika Gatsbaria had already reached Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao raised his hand and grabbed Rika Gatsbaria's neck. However, Chun Zhao felt like he was grabbing a slippery eel. Rika Gatsbaria immediately broke free and retreated. Lika Gatsbaria turned pale with fright. How could this be? How could Chen Zhao still move? Was he stronger than him? But he was just a human. Rika Gatsbaria knew that his freezing spell wasn't perfect. The strength of the spell determined how long it could freeze the opponent. For example, when he'd fought Depler and Beast earlier, he could easily freeze them for a few seconds or even longer. Of course, if the target was too strong, the freezing time would be shortened too. In fact, if the target was a Demon King and he could hit it, the freezing time would probably be infinitely close to zero. Chen Zhao wiped the slippery liquid off his hand. You're really a eel. So slippery. Smiling, Chen Zhao looked at Rika Gatsbaria. You better be faster. Even if you freeze my body, it'll be meaningless if you can't be faster. Rika Gatsbaria's body tensed up. He looked at Chen Zhao warily. Who exactly are you? Everyone stared at Chen Zhao in shock. Chen Zhao had actually counterattacked Rika Gatsbaria. It was only a short exchange, but Chen Zhao did not fall into a passive position. I'm your great-grandmother's head. Do you believe me? How dare you? Rika Gatsbaria lost his mind and charged at Chen Zhao. Bang! Chen Zhao kicked Rika Gatsbaria right in the face. Rika Gatsbaria flew into the wall, and the wall was smashed into pieces. Everyone gasped. Chen Zhao had actually kicked Rika Gatsbaria away. Rika Gatsbaria patted off the dust on his body. Is that all you have? Rika Gatsbaria thought that was Chen Zhao's full strength. In his opinion, Chen Zhao definitely wanted to kill him quickly. It had been such a good opportunity. If Chen Zhao could do it, he definitely wouldn't give it up. So, Chen Zhao's strength had probably reached its limit. Chen Zhao was probably able to dispel his spell so quickly because he had some anti-magic item on him. Everyone couldn't help but become nervous. Could it be that Chen Zhao couldn't kill this monster? Just then, Rika Gatsbaria's horns suddenly lit up like two strangely shaped incandescent lamps. In the middle of the two horns, powerful mana fluctuations began to gather. Han Bao said. Chapter 2001. Just then, the magic above Rika Gatsbaria's head started to turn into energy. An energy ball that continuously released red light and arcs of light gathered. Rika Gatsbaria roared and increased the magic input. The red energy became the size of a basketball. This was his first time using this move in front of everyone. Everyone's expression changed drastically. They couldn't help but worry about Chen Zhao. Could Chen Zhao block this move? Die! Along with Rika Gatsbaria's furious roar, the ball of light shot at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao raised his right arm. The mouth of gluttony. The ball of light instantly disappeared before Chen Zhao. His eyes widened. Rika Gatsbaria stared at Chen Zhao in shock. How can this be? The ball of light was broken down in the mouth of gluttony and then reformed. Chen Zhao kept his right arm raised. Directional attacks are useless against me. Whoosh! The mouth of gluttony reflected the reformed ball of light back at Rika Gatsbaria. Rika Gatsbaria tried his best to move his body, but the ball still brushed past his shoulder. His shoulder and a part of his chest evaporated instantly. The ball of light hit the wall behind him. Rumble! Suddenly, the huge impact and tremors engulfed everyone present. Fortunately, the impact was directional. If it had spread out, everyone present would have been smashed to pieces in an instant. After the impact, everyone couldn't help but look up. There was a 2 to 3 meter wide hole in the wall with no end in sight. Then Rika Gatsbaria looked even more wretched than ever. Ella Gonzalez stared at Chen Zhao in disbelief. At the same time, she broke out in a cold sweat. Thankfully, she hadn't attacked Chen Zhao directly when she disguised herself as a tour guide. Otherwise, the consequences would have been severe. Rika Gatsbaria panted heavily. The missing part of his body kept squirming. He's recovering. Kill him, a soldier shouted. But Chen Zhao only glanced at the soldier casually. He ignored the soldier's request. Rika Gatsbaria used a minute to recover his body. However, he'd used up even more energy. Look, I didn't even use my trump card and you can't block it anymore. Chen Zhao held the angelic crystal. You think you've won? Of course I won, Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. Isn't it obvious? You haven't won yet. Like a Gatsbaria said stubbornly. Really? Like a Gatsbaria started to breathe heavily. Chun Zhao raised an eyebrow. He was absorbing the spiritual qi. However, his method of absorption seemed to be self-harming. Could the spiritual energy of heaven and earth be absorbed into one's body? First of all, one needed to be close to the spiritual qi of heaven and earth and understand its nature. Or, Chun Zhao had filtered and infused pure spiritual qi into someone else's body. He also needed a strong body. For example, Chun Zhao had only given it to Kilo out of his children. After that, Kilo also showed signs of weakness and slight injuries. After that, Chun Zhao never did this again. Another example was Nawat Singh. She had mirror magic and could temporarily obtain Chun Zhao's abilities. After using it, she also had to lie in bed for more than half a month. On the other hand, Leica Gatsbaria's absorption method was more direct and violent. It was as if he was drinking lava. Everyone knew that lava contained a huge amount of energy. But could he drink lava directly? Drinking lava would kill him. Leica Gatsbaria's method was a suicidal jinn deification. Wah! Leica Gatsbaria suddenly vomited a mouthful of dirty blood. Leica Gatsbaria let out a wild roar. His body had already reached 3 meters. A suffocating pressure radiated from him. Everyone looked at Leica Gatsbaria in shock. They didn't know what aura was. However, they could truly feel the pressure and the power that made them feel despair. It was as if Leica Gatsbaria would crush them in an instant. Very powerful, but how long can you last like this? 3 minutes. I can definitely kill you in 3 minutes. You can try. There was a sharp sound in the air. It was as if something had torn the air apart. Leica Gatsbaria disappeared from the spot. The next moment, he appeared before Chun Zhao. It was a simple and direct punch. Boom! Chun Zhao was smashed into the wall. A large part of the wall collapsed. He couldn't win. No one believed that Chun Zhao could. That terrifying lethality, that unimaginable destructive power, and that speed that couldn't be captured by the naked eye. They were all enemies that humans couldn't defeat. Chun Zhao stood up from the collapsed soil. He looked at his disheveled appearance. I like this white coat, Chun Zhao complained, patting off the dust on his body. It reminded me of my past job. Just then, Leica Gatsbaria charged toward him again. Without saying anything else, he punched Chun Zhao again. Chun Zhao was sent flying again. This time, Leica Gatsbaria instantly shot out a red energy ball. The red energy ball caught up to Chun Zhao and caused him to explode in the air. Everyone stared at Leica Gatsbaria, dumbfounded. Too powerful, unbelievably powerful. Before Leica Gatsbaria, Chun Zhao couldn't fight back at all. Let's go while the monster's attention is on that person, Fisky said in a low voice. Don't even think about escaping. No one can escape. Today, everyone will die here. Leica Gatsbaria blocked everyone's path. Leica Gatsbaria's horns shot out an incomparably terrifying red beam, instantly shattering a soldier's body. Then another one, and another one. Ella, Gonzalez, and the rest of them are pale with fear. You're going to die. You're going to die. You're going to die too. Leica Gatsbaria roared crazily. Just then, Chun Zhao's voice came from behind Leica Gatsbaria. You don't have much time left. Are you sure you want to waste it on an unimportant guy? Leica Gatsbaria's pupils constricted. He looked back at Chun Zhao in shock. You're not dead yet. Why do you think I'm dead? I'm only giving you 3 minutes to do whatever you want and see if you can kill me. Chapter 2002. Chun Zhao twisted his neck. Did he get hit on purpose just now? The remaining people all stared at Chun Zhao in disbelief. But was it possible? Chun Zhao wasn't human. He was a monster beyond human comprehension. If Leica Gatsbaria had been beaten up on purpose, they could understand. But Chun Zhao said that he let Leica Gatsbaria attack on purpose. They found it hard to believe. I don't need you to let me. Go die. Leica Gatsbaria roared as he charged at Chun Zhao. This time, he didn't hold back anymore. He went all out. The unstoppable power blasted at Chun Zhao. But this time, Chun Zhao's face only tilted slightly. You don't need me to let you? Fine. Chen Zhao punched back. Finally, Lika Gatsbaria was sent flying more than 10 meters away. Large amounts of rubble fell from above. After a brief daze, Lika Gatsbaria charged at Chen Zhao again. Chen Zhao punched at Lika Gatsbaria. Lika Gatsbaria's arm twisted instantly, and his body was sent flying again. This time, he smashed heavily into the wall above him. Large amounts of rubble fell down. At this moment, Lika Gatsbaria sent another red energy ball down from above. This time, it was much more powerful than the previous ones. Chen Zhao used the same trick, the mouth of gluttony. The red energy ball was instantly absorbed. In less than a second, it was fed back to Lika Gatsbaria. Boom! The energy blast hit Lika Gatsbaria, who was dozens of meters away. But right now, Lika Gatsbaria had a godlike state. Any damage could be instantly healed. As long as it wasn't a fatal blow, he could ignore it. Of course, he also knew that this was his final craziness. Lika Gatsbaria fell vertically toward Chen Zhao. Boom! 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 Chen Zhao also moved. Both of them were so fast that they didn't have any friends. There was only the sound of the two colliding in the air. The survivors trembled in fear at the sound of the explosion. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't even protect themselves, let alone escape. Lika Gatsbaria had already realized it. Chen Zhao was indeed stronger than him. Even if he used forbidden power, he was still no match for Chen Zhao. That kind of overwhelming power made it impossible for him to resist. Right now, he could only barely remain undefeated. This was all thanks to the insane self-healing ability brought about by the 3 minutes of madness. He no longer had any scruples, and he even gave up on defense and evasion. Chen Zhao punched him, so he punched Chen Zhao back. But to him, Chen Zhao's punch was practically destructive. Every punch that landed on his body would cause his body parts to shatter. But it had no effect on Chen Zhao. Suddenly, a series of loud noises rang out in the air. The crowd did not see anyone either. The surrounding rock walls were constantly blown away and cracked. It was a battle they couldn't understand. It was a battle that they could never imagine, even if they exhausted their imaginations. Suddenly, an incomparably dull bang sounded in the sky. Then, everyone saw a beam of red light fall. It smashed the ground into pieces. Lika Gatsbaria was lying in a huge pit. Lika Gatsbaria's body recovered quickly, and he struggled to stand up. But the next moment, Chen Zhao descended from the sky and stepped heavily on Lika Gatsbaria's chest, forcing him to the ground again. Everyone felt like they were suffocating. They felt that Chen Zhao was incomparably tall. Ella Gonzalez's face was pale. Chen Zhao's victory wasn't good for her either. Just then, the huge explosion finally happened. The self-destruct device of the research base destroyed everything here. Chen Zhao ignored it. He only looked at Lika Gatsbaria, who was under his foot. You lost, so goodbye. Chen Zhao looked at Lika Gatsbaria, who'd already passed the 3-minute time limit. By now, he was rapidly weakening, and his body was also starting to wither. Chen Zhao still gave him the last blow. The survivors were still trying their best to find a chance of survival. They were dodging the continuous explosions. But Chen Zhao had no intention of saving them. The violent explosions had already affected the survivors. Shockwaves and flames rushed out from all the exits. Save me! Save me! Ella Gonzalez ran toward Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao only stared at Ella Gonzalez coldly. But before she could reach Chen Zhao, an explosion engulfed her from the side. Ella Gonzalez was sent flying by the impact. Almost half of her body was charred. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Chen Zhao still ignored Ella Gonzalez. He turned his gaze in another direction. Fei Si-Chi was climbing up the wall of the elevator shaft. By now, he'd already climbed dozens of meters into the air. Without any other threats or obstacles, it wasn't impossible for him to climb up with his stamina. Fei Si-Chi glanced in Chen Zhao's direction. He realized that Chen Zhao was also looking at him. But Fei Si-Chi felt that Chen Zhao couldn't do anything to him now. Moreover, there were continuous explosions below. Chen Zhao definitely couldn't take care of himself. Fei Si-Chi used a few minutes to finally climb out of the elevator shaft which was hundreds of meters high. There were still explosions in the shaft. The shockwaves and flames almost filled the entire shaft. Fei Si felt that even Chun Zhao wouldn't be able to escape. Just as Fei Si Chi was feeling lucky, a gust of wind suddenly shot out of the shaft. The strong airflow even brought the flames below, which also shot out of the shaft. Because Fei Si was too close, he was hit by the flames directly. He rolled on the ground from the burn. When he looked again, Chun Zhao was already standing in front of him. Fei Si rolled a few more times in fear. He's still alive. He's actually still alive. Fei Si didn't think that he could defeat Chun Zhao. This man was almost impossible to kill, whether it was a destructive explosion or a twisted monster. None of them could kill this man. Chun Zhao stood calmly before Fei Si Chi. Let me go, let me go. Didn't you let me out? I'll let you out to kill you, Chun Zhao said calmly. Because my mission is to kill you and all the twisted monsters. Also, I don't think I have a reason to let you go. Fei Si wasn't innocent. He was the previous owner of this research base. His crimes weren't any less than Depler's. Chapter 2003. Chun Zhao lifted Fisky and removed his limbs. Ignoring his pleas, he threw him back into the elevator shaft, which was filled with hot flames. The ground was collapsing. There were simply too many bombs in the underground base. Moreover, many bombs weren't installed on the main body of the building. Instead, they were installed in the soil or rock layers. The goal was to completely destroy the structure of the ground. There were also a dozen super bombs, the kind that injured Chun Zhao last time. If these super bombs exploded on the ground, they could flatten buildings within a kilometer radius and vaporize all living things within the range. Not even ashes would be left. If they exploded underground, they could completely destroy the structure of the rock layers. Chun Zhao took out his phone and called Demi. It's over, but none of your people survived. Demi was silent for a long time. You didn't save them? This is not a playground, it's a battlefield. The monsters here are stronger than I imagined. Even I was lucky enough to find the self-destruct device of Sala's laboratory, and it's the super bomb from last time. Otherwise, I'm afraid even I wouldn't have survived. Demi felt that it was a pity. It would be perfect if Chun Zhao died in there too. Thinking about it, Chun Zhao was really lucky. Last time on the artificial island under the Lake Pontchartrain Bridge, Chun Zhao had dodged it. This time, Chun Zhao dodged it again. To be honest, I'm curious. Doesn't the military need research materials? After all, the monsters created by the people in this lab are quite powerful. Do you think the military doesn't have such research? Whatever. It's better not to tell me about military secrets. I don't want to be killed. When Chun Zhao returned to the hotel, it was already past 1 in the morning. Hey, Portia. Boss, if you don't have a valid reason, I'll sue you for workplace harassment. Book me a ticket back to LA tomorrow. The earlier, the better, Chun Zhao said. Also, if you want to sue me, you better ask my lawyer. You know him anyway. Portia was furious, but she couldn't do anything to Chun Zhao. She could only book a ticket for him obediently. Yawning, Chun Zhao dragged his luggage to the airport. He didn't know if Portia was taking revenge on him. The flight she booked for Chun Zhao was at 7:30 in the morning. As a result, Chun Zhao had to leave at 5 in the morning and rush to the airport. Of course, the reason given by Portia was also quite sufficient. This was the only flight with first-class seats. Chun Zhao entered the VIP lounge and started to make up for it. He also instructed the staff in the departure lounge to call him at 7 o'clock. Chun Zhao collapsed on the sofa and dozed off. After sleeping for who knew how long, someone patted his shoulder. Chun Zhao thought it was time, but when he opened his eyes, he saw that it was Zhang Yi. Mr. Chun, are you coming back too? Zhang, he didn't expect to see him at the airport. Oh, it's you, Miss Zhang. Chun Zhao rubbed his eyes. I'm not going back. I'm going to Los Angeles. The City of Angels. Is that the next stop of your trip? No, I live in Los Angeles. If you have time, you can come to Los Angeles. I'll be a good host. Tilting her head, Zhang Yi blurted out, Banana people? Chun Zhao's face twitched. Ms. Zhang, even if I'm really a pervert, you shouldn't call me that in front of me. It's about a person's manners. Zhang, he was a straightforward person. She said whatever was on her mind. To put it nicely, she was honest, but to put it bluntly, she was one-track minded. She didn't have any bad intentions, but it did make Qin Zhao uncomfortable. After all, no one in China liked that word. Okay, I apologize. It's not sincere, but I'll still accept it. Qin Zhao looked at Zhang Yi's clothes and then at the elite woman standing behind her. Also, this was the VIP lounge. Qin Zhao didn't believe that Zhang Yi could get in with her part-time job. Hi, I'm Qin Zhao. How should I address you? Qin Zhao reached out his hand to the elite woman behind Zhang. Li Youjia. Li Youjia shook hands with Qin Zhao politely. Li Youjia had been observing Qin Zhao. Looks, height, clothes, and manners were all above average. This man's scores were all above average. Just then, the announcement for boarding the flight to Los Angeles sounded. Sorry, my flight has arrived. I'm boarding now. See you again if fate allows it. Sis, what do you think of him? Zhang Yi asked after Qin Zhao had left. Not bad. You have good taste, Li Youjia said. What does he do? I don't know the details. He said that he was a medical student and then started a small business. He probably has some money. From what he's wearing, it should be around $50,000. I don't see any brands on him. He doesn't even wear a watch. I don't know anything else, but his jacket has the Baroness logo on it. It's a top brand in America. Also, the jacket should be a custom-made model. It's at least $20,000 or $30,000. The 2 suitcases he's carrying are also the Baroness limited edition. I've never heard of the Baroness. Is it a big brand? You just need to know that when Hollywood stars attend various events, at least 30% of the gowns are from the Baroness. Because the Baroness market is mainly in the U.S., very few people overseas know about it. When I went to the U.S. last year, I saw the Baroness Autumn show. One set of clothes is so expensive. He's probably a prodigal. Also, the 2 suitcases are limited edition. Does he have too much money and nowhere to spend it? Just because he rejected you, you're hating him because of your love, isn't that right? This isn't a TV show. I just don't like it. But that guy is indeed a good man. You should really consider him. He said that he already has a few kids. He's definitely lying. I don't see any ring on his ring finger. There's no sign of it either. Regardless, I won't do anything for a man who rejected me. I'm not that cheap. Are you ready to inherit the family business? If I say I'm not ready, will my dad let me go? No. That's why I plan to make him lose a lot of money. Then he'll know that I'm not cut out for it. Then my brother can inherit the business. How old is your brother? Are you sure he can wait that long? I have to. I know I'm not cut out for it. If he really can't wait, he could just find a trust fund. Chapter 2004. When Qin Zhao arrived at LAX, it was only 9 in the morning. Today, it wasn't Feilai, Portia, or Refra who came to pick him up. It was Demi. Not long ago, the 2 of them were sworn enemies. Qin Zhao never thought that this woman would come to pick him up. Of course, it was more like a meeting than a meeting. Demi sat in Qin Zhao's car. Qin, I hope you can keep your promise. This is a check for $10 million. It's from my account. Don't worry. Qin Zhao handed the check to Demi. No, I hope you can transfer the money to the loan sharks. It's money my father owes to Sainin Finance Company. Is there a problem? Sainin Finance Company? I don't think you need to return the money. Why? Their company has already been dissolved. That's impossible. I've investigated their company. Their background is very complicated. Also, their boss's family has a lot of influence in politics and the underworld. I chased their boss away. He's probably hiding in some sewer now. You? Why did you do this to them? Do you have a grudge against them? Not really, but it's not pleasant. Then he wanted to kill me, so I fought back. I didn't kill him, but as long as I'm here, he won't dare to come back. Are you sure? I'm very sure, Qin Zhao said, nodding. Demi stared at Qin Zhao in shock. Qin Zhao's power seemed to be greater than she'd imagined. You could decide what to do with this check, Qin Zhao said. If you want to return the money for your father, then do it. I won't ask about other uses. Anyway, it's yours. Demi put the check away. Even she couldn't reject such a huge sum. Of course, if she accepted the check, it meant that she would no longer be able to clear her grudge with Qin Zhao. Tell me what happened this time. Do I have to tell you about the conflict with Ham? I heard that Ham and his men were found by the Mexican police 2 days ago. They were buried in the desert and exposed to the sun for half a day. Demi stared at Chun Zhao. Other than Chun Zhao, she couldn't think of anyone who would or could do something like this. In the end, the police only found him after receiving an anonymous call. I'm not interested in your grudges. I want to know what happened in Sarah's lab. The process wasn't too complicated. Ham's team and I separated when we entered Salah's laboratory. Then, I released a large number of failed test subjects and created chaos in Salah's laboratory. However, Salah's laboratory's defense is very strong. If I hadn't found the self-destruct button in the end, I'm afraid this operation would have ended in failure. Didn't the people in Sarah's lab use the anesthetic fog? Of course, it's not a problem in an open space, but the structure of the underground laboratory has no ventilation. Once they use that kind of mist, it will bring more trouble to themselves, so it's understandable that they didn't choose to use it. The mist also contained the evolution spores, and the researchers were well aware of how dangerous the evolution spores were. Once the fog was used, it was very likely that the entire experimental base would be contaminated. How did Ham die in the end? He died a heroic death, Chun Zhao said. He self-destructed to kill the enemy. There was only relief on Demi's face. There was no regret or pity. To her, Ham's death was already the best news. But the operation wasn't perfect either. Her original plan was to leave a few soldiers alive. But in the end, not a single one survived. Now, she had to worry about how to write the operation report. It was like the police had a shooting report. The military also had similar requirements. Every military operation required a report. Usually, it was written by the people and soldiers who participated in the operation. If all the participants died, then the superior military personnel in Gili would be responsible for writing the report. This kind of report without witnesses or material evidence was very troublesome. If it wasn't written well, they might even be court-martialed. Of course, this had nothing to do with Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao drove Demi to the city and left. They just finished a deal, so he had to maintain a certain distance. When Chun Zhao returned to Moon Villa, Portia and Zephyr came out to welcome him. "Boss, you back." "Humph." Chun Zhao turned his head and ignored Portia. Portia was very embarrassed. She knew that she hadn't done well. There were tickets for other times, but she'd chosen the earliest one. "Boss, don't be angry. I was saving you money. That time is the cheapest. See, you saved more than $100. I don't need that $100. Zephyr, distribute the gifts I brought back to the children." "Oh, I brought you a bunch of Mexican fire opals." Opals were also called opals because they were a strange material formed after precipitation and compression of minerals. When light shone on them, it would diffract and refract colors because of the minerals. They had the flames of ruby, the blue of sapphire, the mysteriousness of amethyst, and the vitality of emerald. Currently, the main production countries were Mexico and Australia. They were famous for their colorful colors. In Europe, opals were stars struck by lightning. In Mexico, opals symbolized hope. The Mexican fire opals Chun Zhao bought for Zephyr were both expensive and cheap. At least, Chun Zhao felt that $8,000 was not expensive. Zephyr was indifferent, but Portia snatched the fire opal from Zephyr's hands. Her eyes sparkled. "It's so beautiful." The fire opal was mainly dark red, with rainbow colors brewing in the pearlescent light. The color was mesmerizing. Portia turned to Chun Zhao. "Boss, where's mine?" "What? A gift? What gift?" "Zephyr has a gift. I should have one too. Gifts are for the sake of the heart." "What about your heart?" Chun Zhao took out a bottle from his suitcase. Portia took it. It was a transparent bottle. Then she saw nothing. "What? That's my heart. But there's nothing in it." "No, I've filled it with the air of Nikali. Although you can't go to Nikali, you can feel the air of Nikali. Won't you feel much better now?" Portia gritted her teeth at Chun Zhao. Chapter 2005. Chun Zhao's gifts for the children were much more ordinary. It was mainly because he didn't know what to give. So, it was either handicrafts or toys. Of course, a girl's gift was naturally more precious and thoughtful than a boy's. Chun Zhao had a serious tendency to value girls over boys. He even prepared a gift for Xin Li in Europe. Boss, you must love me, right? You must have prepared a gift for me. Only Portia didn't get a gift. She was very upset. It was just a small prank. Why couldn't she get a gift? Portia, don't be dissatisfied. That bottle of air from Mersicali is the most thoughtful gift in my life. It's an honor that even my family doesn't have. I don't want air. I want a gift. Okay. Your gift is still in the trunk of my car. Take it yourself. Portia happily ran to get it. But when she got it, Portia was angry again. What's this? Is this a suit? Portia couldn't understand it. It was a one-piece suit. It looked like it was for sports. Chun Zhao glanced at Portia. It's called Shortcut to Heaven. What do you mean? Portia was confused. Afra glanced at the suit in Portia's hands. It's a flying squirrel suit. It's also called a glider suit. It's a body gliding suit in extreme sports. Boss, why did you give me this? I don't do body gliding, Portia said in disdain. Wow, Dad, I want it too. I want to fly too. Zherlin saw Portia's glider suit. Not only her, but the other children were also excited. They didn't know what fear was at all. Compared to the gifts Chun Zhao had chosen for them, they preferred thrilling things like this. Look, the children all like it. Why don't you like it? Since he'd already chosen the gift, Chun Zhao wouldn't return it. No matter how much Portia disliked it, Chun Zhao wouldn't change his mind. Portia wanted to cry. She didn't even dare to play with it. What was the use of it? During this time, the White Elves seemed to have disappeared without a trace. As the leader of the White Elves, Meislan Poole was even more low-key. He had never shown himself in front of anyone. During this time, Meislan Poole Lu was under a lot of pressure. This was because they had failed to defend against the Dark Elves led by Lila Gavich. As a result, Lila Gavich entered the secret cave and obtained Armanditor's blood. In a short period of time, he had become a great elf. And according to the reports of the informants hidden among the Dark Elves, Lila Gavich had fulfilled many of the requirements to become an elven envoy. Now, Lila Gavich had a good chance of becoming the first elven messenger in centuries. The elf envoy was not the elf king, so he did not have the right to restrict and command the White Elves. But the symbolism of the elves was very great. Furthermore, elven envoys had many unique spells, two of which were Elemental Pardon and Nature's Glory. Mastering Elemental Pardon meant that directional elemental attacks were practically useless against him. Nature's Brilliance was even more frightening. As long as it was in a forest or there were plants around it, the Spirit Envoy would be invincible. The Fairy Envoys could receive an endless supply of gifts from nature. Even in a steel jungle, it was impossible to not find any plants. Although they were far less powerful than in a real forest, they were still difficult to defeat. This was definitely not good news for the White Elves and Meislan Poole. The White Elves and the Dark Elves had been fighting for thousands of years. Although there was no real full-scale war, that was because both sides were about the same in strength. No one wanted both sides to suffer losses. And in the thousands of years of confrontation, the White Elves had always been slightly ahead of the Dark Elves. But once a great elf and elf envoy appeared among the Dark Elves, the situation would completely change. No one could guarantee that the balance would be maintained when an elf envoy appeared among the Dark Elves. A great elf already had the effect of suppressing and encouraging the lower elves. With the addition of the title of Elf Envoy, the White Elves would have no chance of winning. Now, there were only two solutions. One was, of course, to kill Lila Gavich before he passed the test of nature. But now, Lila Gavich was hiding in a place where even his clansmen could not find him. It was almost impossible to find him. Lila Gavich had always been known for his cunning. In the past few decades, Meislan Poole and Lila Gavich had also been fighting for decades. Lila Gavich might not be the most outstanding clan leader in the history of the Dark Elves, but he was definitely the most cunning clan leader. When he did not even tell his own clansmen where he was hiding, it meant that he was fully prepared. Others would not be able to find his hiding place. Moreover, he could really hide in the deep mountains and forests for a month or two. After all, he was an elf who was close to nature, and the White Elf spies among the Dark Elves could not get through to Lila Gavich. So the first solution obviously would not work. The people Maisland Poole sent to search for Lila Gavich also had no clues. So now, Maisland Poole had to choose another solution. Undine, from today onwards, you will be the clan leader of the White Elves, Maisland Poole said. Poole, you should know my relationship with Lila Gavich. Are you really going to give me the position of clan leader? Undine was telling the truth. Even Bao, and Bader were Lila Gavich's children. Moreover, Undine had never hidden the origins of the two children, and many people in the clan knew about it. Although the two clans hated each other, there was no melodramatic story like Romeo and Juliet. They had separated purely because of their relationship. But Undine still did not think that she would be a good clan leader. Undine's expression was serious. Maisland Poole's expression became even more serious. I will only say it once. It will be the only time it will work, Maisland Poole said. Poole, what are you going to do? Stop Lila Gavich from becoming the elf messenger. You can't even find him. How are you going to stop him? I don't need to find him. I already thought of another way, Maisland Poole said calmly. Undine took a deep breath and stared at Maisland Poole. She could vaguely guess what Maisland Poole was going to do. You are. Don't say it even if you guessed it. Words have power. 9 Heavens God Emperor. Chapter 2006. Some cultures were interconnected. For example, reincarnation. Western and Chinese civilizations both believed in reincarnation. Another example was the power of language. In the East, there was a saying that a word could become a prophecy. In the West, there was also a culture of words. Some words would come true when spoken. If these words were spoken by a normal person, perhaps nothing would happen, because the power of magic first needed belief. Only with belief could one have this power. But in the spiritual world, the possibility of something happening or coming true when spoken was very high. So in the spiritual world, some words could not be spoken casually. However, Undine, who had guessed Maisland's intentions, felt terrible. You're crazy. Do you know the consequences of this? I know. Maisland raised his right arm. Undine saw that Maisland's wrist had been cut open. What flowed out wasn't red blood, but black blood. Help me take care of my people. I'm not a qualified leader, but I hope to use my last bit of strength to protect them. Maisland Poole used a calm tone to speak resolutely. Maisland's arm began to corrode. It disintegrated and collapsed like black sand. This disintegration and collapse continued to spread upwards, then his body, his neck, and finally his entire body. Maisland ignored the abnormality of his body and walked towards Undine step by step. He tapped a finger on Undine's forehead. A white rune appeared on Undine's forehead. Undine wanted to stop him, but it was too late. Maisland Poole didn't discuss this with him at all. He killed himself, and he didn't return to nature. He fell into hell. In the end, Maisland Poole turned into a pile of black sand and completely disappeared from this world. As the leader of the White Elves, I pardon your great sin. I hope your soul can return to nature, Undine said calmly. She didn't seem to have much emotion in her tone. She didn't agree with Maisland's actions. But it was meaningless to question or criticize Maisland now. Maisland was already dead. As for whether he succeeded or not, he would have to wait until that day to find out. Somewhere deep in the mountains, Lila Gavich suddenly shivered. Fuck, what's with this feeling? As Methlon Pryor had guessed, Lila Gavich had gone into hiding as a savage in the deep woods. This caused him to lose at least 10 kilograms of weight from his original weight of 100 kilograms. He couldn't even eat breakfast, even though he had prepared a lot of food. However, many foods required further processing. Even making coffee required a pot of boiling water. Is it some kind of bad warning? Lila Gavich was a little worried. Logically speaking, no one should be able to discover him here. He had gone to great lengths to hide here. Everything was arranged and prepared by him. He decided not to contact anyone until the test of nature arrived. He would only contact Xinjiao on that day. This would also ensure the greatest degree of safety. However, the sudden chill made Lila Gavich vaguely sense something. He did not understand where this sense of danger was coming from. He didn't know what went wrong with him. Right now, he didn't dare to contact anyone, let alone ask for information. After all, whatever he did now was risky. The best choice was to do nothing. No matter how he thought about it, Lila Gavik still felt uneasy. He didn't trust his own people now because he knew that there were white elf spies among them, just like how there were white elf spies among the white elves. So, he decided to find Chun Zhao. As long as Chun Zhao didn't change his mind, he would be fine. Chun Zhao was his greatest trump card and also his greatest guarantee. "Hello, Mr. Chun, it's me. Are you going to give birth?" Chun Zhao teased. "I'm not going to give birth. I'm going through a tribulation." "Okay, where are you now?" "I'll go over now." "No, I'm not going to give birth now." "No, I'm not going through a tribulation now either." "Then why did you call me? Are you asking about me?" "I suddenly had a bad feeling just now, as if something had happened, so I wanted to ask Mr. Chun if you've changed your mind." "No, I won't change my mind," Chun Zhao said. "What if the white elves give you an offer you can't refuse?" "I'll finish what I promised you first and then kill you." "Mr. Chun, no matter what they offer, I'll pay double after it's done." "Okay, I'll tell the white elves what you said." "Tell them for what?" "They'll definitely offer a higher price, and you'll have to pay double." "Mr. Chun, this joke isn't funny." "Okay, I don't want to waste time with you. I'm helping you this time because I owe you. Whether it's you or the white elves, there's nothing worth thinking about. That's all." Chun Zhao more or less knew about Lila Gavik's businesses. Although they were quite profitable, they were all industries with a certain degree of pollution and danger. Chun Zhao really wasn't interested. He couldn't offer anything that interested him. After hanging up, Chun Zhao glanced at Fei Lai at the table. "Fei Lai, it's late. Don't you have work today? I asked Robio for leave." "Leave? Are you not feeling well?" "No," Fei Lai said. "I'm going to Mirror Lake. The house is finished, but I haven't checked the feng shui yet. If I wait until the surrounding landscape is done, I won't be able to change the feng shui." If Fei Lai hadn't mentioned it, Chun Zhao would have thought that she'd forgotten about her identity as a feng shui master. "Okay." Chun Zhao shrugged helplessly. A while later, Portia and Zephyra arrived too. After breakfast, everyone went straight to Mirror Lake. "Fellwood, are you at the construction site now?" "I haven't gone yet." "Mr. Chun, are you coming today?" "Yes, Fei Lai and I are going. You should come as soon as possible." "What's the matter?" "Fei Lai has any requests for the villa's surroundings later. Just listen and do as she says." "Okay, I understand." Fellwood remembered that Fei Lai had also made her own requests when Mingyue Villa was completed last time. Chun Zhao had said the same thing. He just listened and didn't have to raise his professional concerns. He would do whatever Fei Lai asked. Chapter 2007. Fellwood Cisco arrived before Chun Zhao and Fei Lai. "Morning, Miss Fei Lai." "Morning, Mr. Fellwood," Fei Lai said. "You talk to Chun Zhao. I'll walk around." "Okay." Fei Lai wandered around the area by herself. She was becoming more and more like a charlatan. No, a feng shui master. First, she looked at the terrain, then the feng shui. Fei Lai ran to the top of the waterfall and looked from above. At the same time, she took out a notebook and made notes. I didn't realize before that Mirror Lake is a huge treasure bowl. In feng shui, living water was wealth, and dead water was disaster. Falling water from the waterfall brought wealth and treasure. Then it was released into the river, turning dead water into life. In the past, Chun Zhao had widened the river to allow boats to enter and leave Mirror Lake. It was originally an unintentional action, but because of this unintentional action, it became the finishing touch. Mirror Lake faced the sea. When the sun rose, the first wisp of purple chi would gather. The purple chi turned into all things, and the water flowed east. Mirror Lake's feng shui was already the pinnacle of wealth and fortune. A natural treasure land was nothing special. Moreover, Chun Zhao didn't plan on participating in politics, so he didn't ask for purple chi to come from the east. This was Chun Zhao's fate. When he'd bought this land, he'd felt that it was fated. He'd never considered things like feng shui, but he didn't expect it to turn out like this. Fei Lai looked at the layout and direction of the villa. In the past, Fei Lai wouldn't have believed in such supernatural things. But ever since he met Chun Zhao, he learned many things about the spiritual world. She also understood that there were many things in this world that she couldn't understand with her previous worldview. This became her opportunity to learn feng shui. Feilai didn't know how much she'd learned. There were some things Feilai could see, and some things she couldn't. Nevertheless, this didn't stop her passion for feng shui. After 20 minutes, Feilai was almost done. He came to Qin Zhao and Felwood's side. Mr. Felwood, along the way to the garage, I hope to transplant 18 oak trees that are at least 50 years old. It would be best if they're more than 100 years old. Felwood, find oak trees that are more than 100 years old, Qin Zhao said. Just report the cost to me afterward. All right, no problem. 18 oak trees should be evenly distributed on both sides of the driveway. I understand. Feilai was very strict in this area. Even Qin Zhao had no right to object to her arrangements. Also, help me expand my vineyard a little more. Feilai listed a dozen more requests, and Felwood had to jot them down in his notebook. Feilai, let's go inside and take a look. The interior has been renovated. Qin Zhao held Feilai's hand and walked into the mansion. Feilai, what do the 18 oak trees have to say? Remember what I said about oak trees? Feilai said, I remember. You said it before. Qin Zhao did remember Feilai saying it before, but Feilai had said too much, so Qin Zhao didn't remember it clearly. In ancient Huaxia, oak trees were the main beams of palaces. They had to be more than 100 years old to bear the weight of the main beam. The wood was sturdy and heavy. The big ones could be the main beam, while the small ones could be the firewood. The beam could bear the weight of the world and bear the weight of the world. The firewood could burn the light and illuminate the air. The oak tree was majestic and carried the weight of the pillar. Right? Qin Zhao patted his head to hide his awkwardness. Even though Feilai had said it again, Qin Zhao didn't remember it clearly. Feilai continued, there are 9 layers in the sky and 9 states on the earth. 18 is the number of the world, so the 18 oak trees are meant to carry the world. Do you want me to be the emperor? Feilai rolled her eyes. You don't have the image of a true dragon, and you don't have the Z-way in the sky. You can't be the emperor in this life. You're a greedy wolf, and will always be a killer. The 18 oak trees are the backbone of her destiny. They can support the world and the 9 states. The oak trees also block the wind and rain, which means that you have to protect the family. This is too mysterious. My head is going to explode. You're a spiritualist, after all. Is it that hard to understand? Everyone has their own specialties. To put it nicely, you're a liberal arts student, and I'm a science student. After walking around the mansion, Felwood came to Qin Zhao and Feilai again. Mr. Chun, Miss Feilai, do you think there's anything you need to improve? It's great, Feilai said. I like it. If Feilai likes it, I like it too. When can we move in? Actually, we can already move in, but Miss Feilai's suggestion will take a few more days. After all, we need to find oak trees over 100 years old. Also, the government has rules that anything over 100 years old, whether it's an oak tree or not, needs to be approved. It also takes some time. I want to ask about that, Qin Zhao said. I believe you have the ability to solve it. Of course. The 100-year-old oak tree in Mingwei Villa was transported from the north. There are more oak trees in the north. Also, the local government there mostly relies on forest resources as taxes. As long as the price is high enough, they won't reject this business. Oak trees were America's national trees, but when it came to huge economic benefits, no matter what symbolism it had, it couldn't stop humans. Before December, the 2 of you and your families will be able to move in. Okay, we'll wait for the final inspection. Qin Zhao nodded. By the way, Felwood, you've already started on Stephen's mansion, right? Yes, I've already started laying the foundation. How many people do you have in your company? Manpower isn't a problem. What about the private airport I mentioned to you last time? You still remember, right? I remember. Do you have enough people? I hope to start construction in the near future. How about this, Mr. Chun? I'll give you the design first and estimate the cost. At the same time, I'll hire more construction workers. That way, we won't waste any time. Sure. I hope the construction cost can be under $400 million. I don't need a big airport. It can only hold 2 or 3 small and medium-sized planes at most, so I don't need it to be as big as a civil airport. Understand. I'll take note. Also, don't forget about the location. Of course, I won't forget. Let's stop here for today. Also, I'll send you the rest of the payment from Mirror Lake Manor. Mr. Chun, you haven't finished the inspection yet. It's fine. We've worked together so many times. I believe you won't disappoint me. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.